Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, Read from the Death, by Sykos. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin Chapter 1, Death Darkness. Where am I? Izuku thinks while looking around darkness. Hello, he asks, but there's no one to respond. Izuku starts to feel anxious, trapped in a void of pure, endless darkness. Calm down, Izuku. What would All Might do in this situation, he thinks to himself, trying to steady his breathing. Okay, first things first, how did I get here? He tries to remember. I woke up this morning, prepared for school, said goodbye to Mom, then I went to school like always. I got through the day, everyone laughed at me for trying to get into you. Then Kaken bullied me and said that. Izuku rethinks Bakugo's words, trying to comprehend why he would say something like that. I know a way you can be a hero. Jump off a roof and pray for a quirk in your next life. Why would he say that? Izuku thinks as tears run down his cheeks, falling into the void. Friends don't say that to each other. A sudden realization hits him. But, is he my friend? After some time, Izuku regains his composure. I have to keep remembering. Then I was going home when that slime villain attacked me. Wait, am I dead? No. All Might saved me. Wait. I met All Might. That's amazing. Okay, calm down. He takes a breath and continues. So then, I went with him through the sky. That was stupid, but anyway, I asked him the question. Izuku's face darkens, showing no hope or dreams. He said no, he said no, and then, Izuku sobs, tearing himself apart. I jumped off the roof. So I am dead, and this is the afterlife. He looks around, finding nothing new, but this time, someone answers. Indeed, you are dead, but this is not the afterlife, a voice comes from behind Izuku. He turns around, seeing the man who spoke. He looks to be in his early 20s, wearing dark clothes similar to those of the hero Eraserhead, but without the scarf. He has black hair, red eyes, and a mischievous smile, not evil nor good, the type of expression that could belong to either a friend or an enemy, depending on his desires. Who are you? Izuku asks, positioning his body as if about to run, if he could. I have many names, but you can call me Sir. That's my name, the stranger, now named Sir, says as he floats closer, stopping about 3 feet from Izuku. You don't look like Sir Night-Eye, Izuku mumbles, but Sir hears it and his face twists in annoyance. I am not Sir Night-Eye. My name is Sir Death, Sir says with patience. Wait, so why you're Death? Izuku asks, fear creeping into his voice. Indeed I am, but don't worry, I am not here to harm you, quite the opposite. I am here to help you. You've been dead for 6 months. 6 months. Izuku's eyes widen. My mom must be so worried. How are you going to help me? While Sir is annoyed by the interruption, it doesn't change his plans. He sighs and continues. Before I tell you that, you must know that your mother passed away 3 months ago. The news hits Izuku like a hammer. She can't be dead. Izuku looks at Sir with tears streaming down his face. How did she die? I will show you. Flashback. Inko Midoriya was driving to the graveyard when she saw All Might fighting against a giant monkey villain. Inko stopped at a traffic light as the villain and All Might fought with ferocity. In an attempt to defeat the villain, All Might threw a Washington smash directly at the villain's stomach, launching him toward the traffic light. The villain crashed into 3 cars, destroying them and killing everyone inside. While All Might celebrated his victory with the crowd, 5 people lay dead. One of them was Inko Midoriya. End of flashback. Izuku stands frozen in shock. All Might killed my mom. He didn't even care. He made me and my mother die. His chest tightens in pain. He is no hero. Izuku says with hate in his voice. I swear I hate that BSTRD and every other hero out there. Then he looks at Sir, who has a serious expression. Could you, revive me? Izuku asks. I can and I will, sir says, making a gesture with his hand. Not only that, but I will give you something you've never had. Are you going to give me a quirk? Izuku asks hopefully. No, sir responds, disappointing Izuku. Oh, Izuku's gaze drops, the spark in his eyes fading. But I will give you something better, sir says with a grin. Something better? Izuku asks, confused. What could possibly be better than a quirk? I will give you raw power, sir says, extending his right arm. A red, semi-transparent orb appears in his hand. I will give you the power of the BLD demon, but it will be different from the original. Izuku looks at the orb, amazed and curious. Sir continues. It will be like a game, sir explains. A game? Izuku asks, confused. How can raw power be like a game? With every person you kill and drink their BLD, you'll gain something like XP. With enough XP, you can unlock new abilities like controlling BLD or jumping in the air. At the beginning, you'll have red claws, nearly indestructible and retractable, and red teeth, even more indestructible and also retractable. You'll also have enhanced regeneration. You can regenerate a body part in an hour and infinitely regenerate BLD plus enhanced speed, reflexes, and strength. That's amazing. That sounds like 3 quirks in one. Izuku says, excited about his future power, a power that could surpass Kaken's Bakugo's. Oh, and you'll also be able to change the color of your eyes and hair to go incognito if you want, sir adds while closing his fist. Thank you, sir. Izuku bows deeply. Don't worry. I'll change your clothes something better than a school uniform. With a gesture of his hand, Izuku now wears a mint green RU with dark green trim, a white robe with slightly tattered sleeves, dark blue pants also tattered at the ends, and mint green bandages wrapped from his elbows to his wrists. Now go and take your revenge. You will never see me again, not in this life nor the next. Goodbye. Without waiting for a response, Sir gestures with his hand and Izuku disappears from the void. After a moment, a feminine voice speaks behind Sir. Told you he wouldn't ask why you waited 6 months to revive him, Sir smiles and turns toward the woman. Well, it still worked as planned. Now we wait for the show to start. How long do you think it will take him to kill All Might? Within a year, the woman replies with a grin. Sir chuckles. That's cheating, Fawn. Of course it'll take a year. The League and the MLA will destroy every hero. Don't worry, just watch the show. Sir follows her, but before disappearing, he glances back and whispers, let's see how far you go, Izuku Midoriya. Then he disappears. Chapter 2, the first read 6 months ago. When Izuku was absent, it was always an odd day. He always showed up, even if one of his arms was shattered. But no one really cared. Maybe he was on vacation, or a family member had died, or something like that. Katsuki was confused. Why would Deku be absent? He decided he would ask Inko or his mom later. That afternoon, when he got home, he found his mom hugging Inko, her best friend, who was sobbing uncontrollably, flooding the room with tears. What's going on? Katsuki demanded, looking around, anxiety rising in his chest. His mom looked up at him with red, swollen eyes. Izuku, committed, she gulped, trying to find the words. He jumped off a roof. The words hit Katsuki like a train. Why would he jump? Then he remembered what he had told him the day before. I know a way you can be a hero. No, it can't be. Jump off a roof and pray for a quirk in your next life. It's my fault. He's dead because of me. Katsuki clutched his head and dropped to the floor under the crushing weight of his guilt. It's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. He repeated the phrase over and over as tears ran down his face. What have I done? Izuku, please forgive me. The present Stan had a decent life, a good job, a wife and kids waiting at home, plenty of friends. What could possibly go wrong? Today, he was helping a friend who needed to eat human flesh to survive. He had helped him sneak into the graveyard where Stan worked to dig up some corpses. Tonight's target was a guy named Vinsmoke or something like that. They were in front of the grave, shovels in hand, when they heard a scratching noise coming from their right. "Who's there?" Stan said, raising his shovel defensively. No one answered. The scratching grew louder. Then the dirt of the grave to their right started to shift, as if someone underneath was trying to push it open. Stan and his friend exchanged nervous glances. "A mole, maybe," his friend suggested. "Or, a zombie." Stan replied, his voice tight with fear. They gripped their shovels, preparing to defend themselves. A hand with large, red claws burst from the grave, followed by another. The hands pushed against the ground, lifting a boy from the earth. He had red hair, red eyes, and freckles scattered across his face. He couldn't have been more than 15. The boy blinked, adjusting to the dim light. Could you tell me where I am?" he asked calmly. "You're on Thriller Bark, the graveyard of Muzutafu," Stan said, not lowering his shovel. The boy Izuku looked around thoughtfully. "I'm hungry, but not for food." His gaze settled on the two men. His lips curled into a sharp smile. I know." He stood up, noticing his own height. "I'm taller now," he thought, looking down at the ground beneath him. "I'm sorry to tell you this, but," Izuku said with a grin, "I'm going to drink your blood." Before they could react, Izuku lunged at them, slashing through the handles of their shovels with ease. Then he ripped through their throats just as effortlessly. That was easier than I thought it would be," he shrugged. "Easy level up for me." He lifted one of the bodies and sank his fangs into the man's neck, drinking every drop of blood until the body was pale and dry. He looks like a raisin," he muttered, dropping the body before doing the same to the other. When he was done, he glanced back at his own grave. "I don't think this will be useful anymore," he said, before smashing the gravestone with his claws. "That's better." He looked down at his hands, admiring the deadly claws. "I like these, they're strong and cut well." He scanned the graveyard, surrounded only by tombstones and two lifeless bodies. "Maybe I should go for more blood." He started walking toward the graveyard gate, a sinister grin spreading across his face. "Which can be my new name?" Aftermath. Naomasa arrived at the scene with Koji. Ryan was already there, waiting for them. "So, what do we have?" Naomasa asked. "Two dead bodies," Ryan replied. "Not a single drop of blood left in them." "That's unusual," Naomasa frowned. "Who would take the time to drain all their blood? And why destroy a grave?" "Maybe they were grave robbing," Koji suggested. "The man on the right worked as a security guard here. The other guy came every month to eat a corpse for his quirk." Maybe, Naomasa scribbled down notes. "Get me all the security footage from around here. Look for witnesses and find out who reported the bodies. There was an old lady who found them while visiting her son's grave," Ryan added. "I'll get the footage," Koji said. "I'll report back right away. Whoever killed them, didn't just kill them. He drank their red water. That's not the behavior of a grave robber, so why was he here?" Naomasa frowned, knowing that these two bodies were only the beginning. Later that night Shota was having a good night roughing up some low-level thieves, drinking coffee at the Cat Cafe, and enjoying a peaceful view. Then he saw a kid in a white robe standing at the edge of a building. He was covering his mouth with a blue scarf. Shota approached cautiously. "Hey, kid. What are you doing up here?" The boy turned around quickly, his piercing red eyes analyzing Shota. "Nothing." "Why do you ask?" the kid replied. "Well, standing on the edge of a roof looks dangerous. You might accidentally fall. I need to convince him not to jump. I don't know if I can catch him from here." After a moment, the kid relaxed. I'm not going to jump, if that's what you're worried about. He rubbed his forehead. I'm just admiring the view. My mom never let me. His voice softened at the mention of his mom. What happened to your mom? Shota asked. The boy's face darkened. She died, in an accident, Shota thought. I shouldn't have asked. But don't worry, the kid continued, his expression hardening. I'm better now. I'm going to achieve my dream, and nothing will stop me. Shota's brow furrowed. What's your dream? The boy smiled darkly as he descended the staircase, his red eyes gleaming under the city lights. You'll find out. Maybe in a year or two, maybe less. But it might interfere with your desires. Shota immediately ran toward the staircase, but when he got there, it was empty. How did he disappear so fast? Meanwhile, hidden beneath the staircase in a dumpster, Izuku grimaced. Ugh. I wanted a dramatic exit. Now I smell like trash. Chapter 3, Making a Name in BLD. There were 2 bodies found in Thriller Bark, the cemetery of Muzutafu, completely drained of BLD. The police, the man watching the news paused the TV. Ugh, another maniac drinking BLD. I hope they K that BSTRD, the man muttered as he took a swig of beer from his couch. But an unexpected voice came from behind him. Oh, why do you want me dead, old man? The man jumped to his feet, spinning around to see Izuku with his claws extended. They stared at each other for a moment before Izuku smiled, his expression turning sinister. In that instant, the man hurled the beer bottle at Izuku and tried to bolt for the door. Izuku blocked the bottle with his right arm, and with his left arm, he pierced the man's right arm, pushing him into the bathroom. Why the rush? Aren't you going to kill me? The man could only respond with an expression of pure terror. Oh well, I wonder if your taste's better than the other 2, Izuku grinned wickedly as he stepped closer to the man. Then, with a swift motion, he pierced the man's heart with 2 of his claws, killing him instantly. Just as easy. Maybe I need to kill heroes for it to be difficult, Izuku muttered as he grabbed the man's body. He bit into it. I just need 7 more to level up. Ugh, why does it have to be so many? He groaned as he left the apartment. But then, he paused and got an idea. He left the apartment with the dead man in tow, leaving a giant R engraved on the bathroom wall. A man and woman were in an alley, the man pinning the woman against the wall. Don't try to resist, or I'll kill you, understand? He grinned maliciously. The woman struggled to break free, but as she sensed that the man had let her go, she looked up and saw Izuku standing over him, the man already dead at his feet. Thank you, she said, tears of gratitude in her eyes. Huh. Oh, you think I saved you? No, 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 no. You misunderstood, Izuku said with a dark chuckle. You're going to die too. With that, he slashed the woman's throat open. After finishing his work, he left, leaving behind 2 dry corpses and a giant E and D on the wall. My parents are going to be so proud. I'm going to work for David's shield. A young man said, his face beaming with joy. He pulled out his keys and started to unlock the door. My life can't get any better. But as he entered, someone pierced his head like butter. Well, it would be better if you had one, Izuku quipped with an evil grin before draining the young man's BLD and engraving a T on the wall. It was late at night, and Zara had to move quickly if he didn't want to be robbed or abducted. He was a block from his house when he spotted a boy with red hair and eyes, his mouth covered, walking toward him. Act natural, like you're not afraid of him, Zara thought to himself. He tried to play it cool, but there was a problem. He doesn't fear me, maybe he'll be more challenging than the others, Izuku thought as he smiled. When they got close enough, Izuku tried to slash Zara's throat, but Zara managed to dodge the attack and made a run for it, darting into a nearby alley. Izuku thought, chasing after him. He was much faster, but when he finally caught up and pinned Zara to the ground, voices from the surrounding area interrupted. "Look what we have here," said a man with a knife in his hand. "A brat trying to be a villain," said a short man, electricity crackling between his fingers. "Let's beat the SHT out of him, boys," bellowed a large man with blades for fingers. "Looks like I'm having fun tonight," Izuku thought, grinning as he snapped Zara's legs and stood up, preparing for the fight. The man with the knife lunged, but Izuku easily dodged and kicked him into a wall. The short man tried to touch him, but Izuku jumped higher than any normal human could, kicking him to the ground with enough force to crack the pavement. Before the big man could attack, Izuku seized the opportunity, leaping at him, evading his blade and ripping off one of his arms. He moved on to the man with the knife, swiftly making a hole in his stomach, and then turned to the big man, crushing the short man's neck with a stomp on his way to finish him off, finally killing the big man. "Well, that was more challenging, but still easy," Izuku said, looking around for Zaru, who was scrambling to escape down the alley. "No, Izuku muttered as he approached Zaru. But when he was about to reach him, Zaru began to glow for a few seconds before blacking out. "That was annoying," Izuku remarked. He then engraved O, O, T, and H on the wall near the bodies before leaving the scene. Naomasa arrived at the new crime scene, where Koji was already waiting for him. "So, same MO, same killer?" Naomasa asked, clearly annoyed. "One day, this madman appears and kills 10 people in a span of 5 days. This is becoming a much bigger problem." "Yeah, with T, O, H, and another O on the wall. Do you know what that means?" Koji asked, showing him his notes. "Let's see, there was an R, E, D, and T in the previous cases," Naomasa muttered, pondering the answer. Suddenly, it clicked. "I know. It's Red Tooth," Naomasa exclaimed. "His villain name, maybe." Koji wondered aloud. "It must be," Naomasa said, "he wants to be recognized. That could be his downfall." "Hey. We got some footage." Ryan, a newly arrived officer, said. There was a camera showing that he tried to kill a man named Zaru but failed. Zaru ran into this alley, where he encountered some other guys who tried to fight him, but ultimately lost. "So, he knows how to fight," Naomasa thought. "Could we see his face?" he asked. "No, but we know he's a man. He wears a white robe, a blue scarf, has red hair, and uses red claws to kill his victims," Ryan explained. "Post the description and mention that he has red teeth," Naomasa ordered. "How do you know?" Ryan asked, confused. "Because that's his name, Red Tooth. The police reported a new villain with 10 victims on his hands, another villain that those fakes haven't dealt with," Stain muttered, cleaning one of his blades. "This villain drinks all the B of his victims without leaving even a single drop," a blonde girl gasped and blushed. "He drinks red water too, just like me. Maybe we could be partners. Maybe he'll even give me some of his BLD," she squealed softly before refocusing on the news. "This new villain wears a white robe and a blue scarf, has red hair, claws, and teeth, DMN it," Shota said, slamming his desk. "What happened?" Hisashi asked from his own desk at UA. "I've seen this kid. I saw him on a rooftop the other day," Shota replied. "The description fits. I should have asked him more. And he goes by the name Red Tooth." All for One chuckled. "Maybe he'll be useful in the future," he said with an evil grin. "Looks like I'm famous. Ugh, now I have to go incognito," Izuku muttered as he walked along a trash-filled beach. The world now had a demon, a man with the power of another universe, and it wasn't prepared for him. Chapter 4, Preparing Red Now let's see my new ability, said Izuku with a grin on Dagoba Beach. He focused on his mind and found the powers he was looking for. "I can sense them, each of my abilities, my claws, my teeth, my regeneration, my enhancements, my ability to change the color of my hair and eyes, and the color of my clothes. I didn't know that, thought Izuku, his smile growing bigger. He continued his research. Let's see, here it is. An energy attack. How does that work? He attacked as if cutting through the air, and 5 energy lines shot out from his claws, destroying a nearby pile of garbage. Oh, it's a medium-range attack. Well, that will work, said Izuku, inspecting the destroyed pile. And how many more to level up? Izuku thought. He focused again, then shouted. There's a lot to do if I want to become stronger, then. He thought for a moment before heading off. I have to find a broker, someone with contacts to make getting kills easier. Later Izuku, with his hair now white and his clothes a light green tone, walked through the streets, ensuring no one would recognize him. He stumbled upon a group of men in an alley and grinned as he approached them. Hey there, called Izuku, making the men turn and grin when they saw him. What do you want, brat, said a man on the left with brown fur, like a bear. You look like you're into illegal things, so I want to know if you know a broker who can help me find some jobs, Izuku said, his smile unwavering. After a moment of silence, the men burst out laughing. You. A villain. Yeah, and I'm All Might, said the man with sunglasses on the right. Well, yeah, I am a villain, Izuku replied, annoyance creeping into his voice. Yeah, of course. Get lost, said a third man sitting on a dumpster. Well, you may know me as Red Tooth, Izuku responded, his expression turning serious. The Red Tooth has red hair, doesn't he, said the bear man. And white clothes, added the man with sunglasses. And red teeth, of course, added the man sitting on the dumpster. Izuku grinned. Well, you see, he smiled, revealing his red teeth. Sometimes I don't want to be recognized, and I don't like people who annoy me. And you are annoying me. The men were paralyzed with fear at the revelation and threat, but one man wasn't. Jiren, said a man with an eye patch, standing up. There's a broker named Jiren. He can get you anything for the right price. He scribbled something on a piece of paper. He'll be at this place in 2 days, at 10 p.m. You can talk to him then, he said, handing Izuku the note. Thanks, said Izuku, a mischievous smile on his face. Finally, someone I can talk to. He grabbed the paper and turned to leave. We may see each other again, but have hope, we may not, he added, walking out of the alleyway. 2 days later Jiren was on his way to meet some thugs in a warehouse near Dagoba Beach. When he arrived and entered, he found the men dead on the floor, dry, with no BLDM in it. Looks like Red Tooth got here before me, Jiren muttered, irritated. The men weren't worth much, but something was better than nothing. He turned to leave when a voice called from near the exit. So, you're that broker they told me about. The man was sitting in the shadows, perched on a few boxes. Yeah, you want something. My clients are dead, courtesy of Red Tooth, but I can still help you for the right price, Jiren said with a charismatic smile. Yeah, sorry about that. They were annoying, said the voice as the man stepped into the light, revealing Izuku in his red form. Jiren took a step back, unsure if he was about to be attacked. Do you want something? He asked, cautious. Don't worry. I won't kill you. I want jobs, more challenging people to kill, Izuku said, grinning. I can find some jobs, but it'll cost you, Jiren said confidently, realizing he wasn't in danger for the moment. Money. Yeah, I've taken it from my victims, Izuku said, pulling out a bundle of cash. Here's 40,000 yen. Is that enough for you? He counted the cash. I can make that work. Meet me here in a week, same time, and I'll get you a job. Maybe a bank robbery or something, Jiren said, extending both hands, one for the cash, the other for a handshake. I like you. Don't worry, I swear I won't kill you anytime soon, Izuku said, handing over the money and shaking his hand. "It's a pleasure doing business with you, Red Tooth," Jiren said with his charming voice. Izuku chuckled and turned to leave. "See you around," he said before disappearing into the night. After Izuku left, Jiren stashed the money in his jacket and began to leave the warehouse. So interesting. The murderer of 13 people is just a kid, Jiren thought with a chuckle. I wonder what All for One will think of this. A week prior Izuku arrived at the warehouse just as planned, in his incognito mode. When he entered, he spotted 3 figures at a table, playing poker. A man with a scar across his nose and below his eyes noticed him and said, "Who's that brat, Jiren? Don't tell me he's part of the—" He stopped, thinking for a second before continuing, "activity we're going to do." Jiren appeared from the back and smiled. "Well, gentlemen, he's going to be the star of the show at the bank robbery." He went to Izuku and offered a handshake, which Izuku gladly accepted. A man with blue skin asked, "That kid's going to be the star of the show. Who is he to pull that off?" The others nodded, watching Jiren for an explanation, but it was Izuku who answered. "You can call me Red, but I'm better known as Red Tooth," he said, shifting into his red form and showing his claws. A man in a pink cape spit his drink. "A kid is that infamous killer. I never would have guessed. Expect the unexpected," said Jiren, grinning. Then he turned to Izuku. "Well, Red, these guys will be your partners for this job." He pointed to the man with the scar. "This is Crocodile, brother of the hero Snatch, but he can only turn his legs into sand." He pointed to the blue man. "This is Binge, with a mutation quirk that enhances his strength and speed, especially in water." Finally, he pointed to the man in pink. "And this is Don Domingo, with a quirk that lets him control someone like a puppet, but if they're too strong, they can break free." Izuku analyzed each of the men. "Crocodile I can kill easily if I hit his neck. Binge won't be troublesome on land, and Don Domingo looks weak, overly reliant on his quirk. After this job, I'll kill them if they annoy me," Izuku thought, then grinned. "I look forward to working with you," he said before turning to Jiren. "So, what's the plan?" Jiren smiled and took out a map from behind some boxes. He placed it on the table and pointed to a spot. "This is the bank you'll rob. Don Domingo will be the getaway driver in front of the van. Crocodile, Binge, and Red will enter the bank, do the usual threaten to kill anyone who tries to call for help or act like a hero, and ask for the money. Then we get away in the van. Simple, right?" Jiren said with a smile. The men all nodded, except Izuku. "At what day and time will it be?" Izuku asked, looking at the map. "A month from now, at 6 p.m., Jiren said. "No," Izuku replied, not looking up from the map. "What do you mean, no?" Jiren asked, confused. "At that time, Present Mike and Midnight are patrolling the area. They'll arrive quickly, and with those 2 plus other heroes, I don't think we'll be able to win. Plus, All Might is in town. He might show up," Izuku stated, still focused on the map. Well, he's not just strong, he's an analyst too," Jiren thought, then grinned. "So, when would you do it?" he asked. "At the UA entrance exam, at the same time. There are rumors that All Might will be teaching there, and if he is, he'll be at the entrance exam. Midnight and Present Mike also teach there, so they won't be around." "That's the perfect time," Izuku grinned, meeting Jiren's eyes. Jiren smiled. He could make a great leader, assassin, strategist, and even bodyguard. All for One might find him very interesting. He looked at the men. "You heard him, boys. The UA entrance exam day, 1 hour before it starts. Meet here to start the plan." He grinned again, his mind racing. "If this works, I'll have to tell All for One about him." After some more conversation, everyone left. As Izuku was about to leave, Jiren called out to him. "Hey, Red." Izuku turned. What? He asked. Don't kill them, please. It would make it harder for me to get you jobs, Jiren said with a smile. Izuku returned the smile. I'll try, he said before leaving. An interesting kid, indeed, Jiren thought as he left the warehouse. Chapter 5, Unleashing Red Hawks soared through the sky, searching for something. Where is that KFC I saw the other day? As he scanned the area, one of his feathers detected a murder in a nearby alleyway. Without hesitation, he changed course and headed toward it. When he arrived, he found 3 lifeless bodies and a kid. Red hair, white robe, he must be that Red Tooth the HSPC told me about. 27 dead in almost 3 months. Well, 30 now, counting these 3. Hawks landed silently behind the boy. Hey, kid, I'm not in the mood. Why don't you just surrender and come quietly to jail, he said, his tone casual yet firm. Izuku covered his mouth with his scarf and turned around, taking a defensive stance while quickly analyzing the situation. Damn it, why is Hawks here? He doesn't have a patrol nearby. At this time of day, he should be out looking for food, but it must be something special if he came all the way here. The nearest restaurants are all common ones around his usual patrol route, except for, Izuku's expression shifted in realization. Wait a minute. Were you going to KFC? Isn't that cannibalism or something? It's not. Just because I have feathers doesn't make me a bird, let alone a chicken. Hawks shouted, visibly annoyed. But then something clicked in his mind. Wait a second, how did you know where I was going? Easy. At this time of day, you'd be eating. So, you must have been looking for a special restaurant outside your usual patrol area. The closest one is KFC, Izuku stated matter-of-factly. Hawks narrowed his eyes. So this kid isn't just some madman. He analyzed my actions in seconds and figured out why I was here. That's dangerous. I need to report this. Well, it doesn't matter, Hawks said, brushing it off. You're still going to jail. With that, he sent a flurry of razor-sharp feathers flying toward Izuku. Izuku tried to dodge, but several feathers cut through his clothes, leaving shallow wounds. Damn it. His feathers are too fast for me to react. The fight continued for a few moments, Hawks relentlessly attacking while Izuku barely managed to avoid the worst of it. I thought you were stronger, Hawks taunted with a smirk. There's no way this guy is struggling this much, but he does look like he's having trouble. Beginner's luck, maybe. Hawks thought, observing the scene. A feather slashed Izuku's leg, slowing him down and causing him to take even more hits. Which ability can I use? Wait. I just leveled up. Maybe that will help. As he dodged another set of feathers, he focused intensely, ignoring the cuts he received in the process. What is he planning? Hawks wondered, gripping one of his katanas just in case. Suddenly, Izuku smirked. For new abilities. That's awesome. What can they do? How can I combine them? A feather sliced his cheek, snapping him back to focus. No time to experiment. Okay, yes. This should work. Closing his eyes, he activated a new ability. I can sense them. I can see them. Every feather, every person, even the tiniest insects nearby. Everything is so clear now. The moment his ability kicked in, Izuku began dodging the feathers effortlessly. I just need to use this until I find an opening to escape. Hawks narrowed his eyes. How did he suddenly start dodging so easily? He focused for a second, and now he's moving like he's Goku. What kind of quirk is that? Just then, a loud car horn blared from a nearby street. Hawks instinctively glanced toward the sound. Now's my chance. Izuku fired an energy attack at Hawks and sprinted in the opposite direction. Hawks barely dodged the attack and turned back, only to find Izuku had vanished. He searched the alleyway and surrounding areas for nearly an hour, but found nothing. How did he improve so much mid-fight, and then disappear without a trace? I need to report this. Meanwhile, hidden inside a nearby dumpster, Izuku let out a quiet sigh of relief. Finally, he's gone. I'm so tired of hiding in dumpsters. After waiting 10 more minutes, he climbed out and muttered to himself, I'll lay low until the event. I'm not getting caught just yet. A grin spread across his face as he disappeared into the night. The day of the robbery, the UA entrance exam day, Akira, a bank manager, sighed as he leaned back in his chair. Today had been incredibly dull, no troublesome customers, no high-profile clients, nothing interesting at all. I wish something exciting would happen. As if the universe had answered his call, 3 men suddenly burst into the bank. One of them, a man with red claws, shouted, If you move, you're dead. If you call for help, you're dead. This is a robbery. Everyone, on the ground, hands on your heads. As panic spread through the bank, the criminals made their way to Akira's desk. A man with a scar grabbed him by the collar. Take us to the vault. Now. Akira swallowed hard and did as ordered, leading the scarred man and a blue-skinned accomplice toward the back. That left Izuku in charge of the hostages. Izuku scanned the terrified people, his gaze filled with amusement. One man near the entrance suddenly stood up and bolted for the door. Izuku sighed. Oh no, trying to escape. Bad news. In a single swift motion, he slashed the man's throat. Blood gushed from the wound as the man collapsed, gurgling his last breaths. Izuku grinned beneath his scarf. He then lifted the corpse for everyone to see. As I said, if you try anything, his voice took on a playful yet menacing tone, you become my lunch. The hostages looked away in horror, unable to stomach the sight of the corpse. Izuku turned his back on them and, without hesitation, when he finished, he wiped his mouth with his scarf and let the body drop to the floor. Anyone else? The terrified hostages remained silent, frozen in fear. No. Then don't even think about trying anything. I'm ruthless. Izuku leaned against the counter, casually watching the windows as he waited for his partners to finish. But then. Stop right there, villain. Izuku barely had time to react before a blast of sand came flying at him. He jumped back, dodging just in time. When he looked up, he saw his attackers. What a coincidence. Death Arms and Crocodile's brother, Snatch. Izuku rolled his shoulders, his body tensing in anticipation. I'll give you one chance to walk away. If you don't, well, I'll have to drink. We don't surrender to villains like you, Red Tooth. Snatch shouted, his face full of determination. Izuku grinned. Well, looks like I will have some fun today. He lunged at Death Arms, but Snatch intercepted him with another sand attack. DMN. I need to deal with Sandy first. I can't touch him normally, but with this new ability. I can. Izuku smirked as his arms darkened to a deep red hue. He feinted an attack toward Death Arms, baiting Snatch into striking. Just as Snatch attacked, Izuku leaped over his sand strike and delivered a devastating punch to his face, sending him crashing into a nearby wall. Snatch groaned as he struggled to his feet, his eyes filled with confusion. How did you punch me? I'm made of sand, it should have gone right through me. Izuku chuckled. I have my tricks. But don't worry, after today, no one will ever punch you again. He launched himself at Death Arms once more. With Snatch too far away to assist, Death Arms had no choice but to brace himself. He crossed his arms in an X to block the incoming strike. It didn't matter. Izuku's claws tore straight through his steel-reinforced arms, impaling him and pinning him against the wall. Death Arms gasped in pain, his eyes wide in shock. How? The plates in my arms, they're made of steel. How did you cut through them like butter? Izuku smirked. I told you. I have my tricks. He yanked down his scarf, revealing his stained mouth. Then, without hesitation, he bit into Death Arm's neck and began drinking. Death Arms convulsed, his body twitching as the life drained out of him. Moments later, he went limp. Izuku pulled away, covering his mouth once more. Just as he turned to face Snatch, another sand attack shot toward him from behind, trapping him. "You'll pay for every single one of your crimes, BSTRD." Snatch growled, his voice filled with rage. But before he could finish Izuku off, a powerful blast of sand struck him from the side, breaking his concentration and setting Izuku free. Izuku turned to see a familiar figure standing at the entrance. "We meet again, brother," Crocodile sneered, Binge standing beside him with several bags of stolen money. Snatch clenched his fists in fury. "This time, I won't show mercy. I'll take you down and send you to prison, Broth dash," but before he could finish, Izuku's claws slashed through his throat. "You talk too much." Snatch collapsed, pooling beneath him. Izuku crouched down, preparing to drink, but "We need to go, now," Binge shouted from the entrance. "The police will be here any second." Izuku sighed, standing up. "Fine, fine." He followed them outside and jumped into the getaway van. As they sped away, he leaned back against the seat, looking at his new allies. "I must say, this was an interesting job. And you guys didn't annoy me. So don't worry, I won't kill you." The criminals shivered at the mere thought of having to fight that kid. Don Daming gulped. "Good to know. Maybe we could rob another bank together sometime." Izuku shook his head. "I had some fun today, but I prefer killing directly. So, no thanks." "Well, if you ever want to work together again, just let us know," Binge laughed. Izuku smirked to himself. Maybe having teammates isn't so bad. Not them, but perhaps others, with similar objectives. Meanwhile, elsewhere. A group of UA teachers watched as a blonde girl shielded another student from the zero-pointer during the entrance exam. "Show them what you can do," Toshinori thought with a smile. "That kid looks interesting," Nizu mused. "What's her name?" Vlad King asked. Eraserhead flipped through the files, then spoke. "Melissa Shield." Chapter 6, Red Allegiance. In a dimly lit bar on Kamino, Jiren walked to the counter where a bartender, made of purple mist, stood. Jiren approached and stood before him. "Hey, Kurojiri," Jiren said with a grin. "I need to talk to all for one about something important." Before Kurojiri could respond, a voice emanated from a nearby monitor. "What is it that's so important, Jiren?" The voice was deep, commanding, and full of authority. Jiren walked toward the monitor. "I'm here to talk about the famous Red Tooth." "Well, is he a problem? Or is he interesting?" AFO asked, his voice laced with curiosity. "Interesting. Very interesting," Jiren replied with a smile. "He's just a kid, though." AFO chuckled. "A kid, you say? How old is he? 15 or 16? Already killed 32 people, and he's drunk after almost every K," Jiren grinned wider. AFO smirked to himself. "That's interesting. But it has to be more, doesn't it? Otherwise, you wouldn't have come all the way here." Jiren leaned forward. "He's not just some thirsty maniac with fast reflexes and strength. He's a strategist, quick, calculating. I saw a video of him fighting Hawks. He was losing at first, but then he started evading all of Hawk's attacks. He didn't defeat him, but he tied with him." Well, AFO's voice trailed off, considering the implications. "That kid could be useful for Tomura." Jiren raised an eyebrow. "You want him in the league?" AFO's tone turned serious. "After the USJ attack, bring him here. Offer him a place in the league." Jiren frowned at the suggestion. "I'm not sure he'll join. I had to convince him not to kill his teammates during a bank robbery." AFO's voice was calm. Don't worry. I think he'll appreciate the offer. After the USJ attack, you'll bring him here for about 500,000 yen. Your job is simple, bring him in. I trust you'll handle it. Jiren sighed. How am I going to convince him? A few days later Izuku sat on the couch of a hotel room near Dagoba Beach, casually scrolling through TikTok while the TV played in the background. Breaking news, the newscaster's voice interrupted. A group of villains calling themselves the League of Villains attacked UA High earlier this week. According to reports, they were targeting All Might. Izuku leaned forward, his eyes locked onto the screen. 3 main villains have been identified, a man in black named Shigaraki, a mist-based villain named Kurojiri, and a grotesque creature known as Nomu. The latter fought All Might and gave him a fight before being apprehended. More details are developing. Izuku turned off the TV, a grin spreading across his face. The League of Villains. If they have the power to take on All Might, I want in. He quickly pulled out his phone and sent a message to Jiren, asking for a meeting the next day. The next day Jiren entered the warehouse to find Izuku sitting at the poker table, his eyes fixed on his phone. Hey there, Jiren greeted. I heard your robbery went well, but didn't 2 heroes show up? That must have been a flaw in your plan, no? Izuku smiled without looking up. I knew at least 2 heroes would show up at that time. I didn't know which ones, but I planned for it. It worked out. Jiren sat down in front of him, intrigued. Well, there's someone who wants to talk to you about joining his group. Izuku didn't miss a beat. If it's the League of Villains, I'm in. If not, I'm not interested. Jiren's smile grew wider. You're in luck. This man is the mentor of the League's leader. But be warned, he's no joke. All Might almost died fighting him. Izuku raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Why'd he wait 6 years to act? If he's that strong, why hasn't he done anything until now? Jiren looked at him, surprised. How did you know it was 6 years ago? Izuku smirked. I know about the villain who injured All Might badly. If this guy almost killed him, it's the same one. That's right. As for why he waited, maybe it was to recover or to gather powerful allies. I don't have the details, Jiren explained. Izuku's grin widened. I'll join. I want to kill All Might, and I'll join whatever team helps me do that. Jiren chuckled. You'll have to be accepted by the leader, but with your charisma, it should be easy. Izuku flashed a dramatic smile. Well, I can't say I'm not charismatic. Tell me when we meet. It'll be the day before the UA Sports Festival, Jiren said as he stood up. Meet me here. We've got someone who can teleport. As Jiren started to leave, he paused and added, one more thing, if the leader doesn't like you, he'll scratch his neck and try to kill you. Be careful. But don't kill him. If you do, you'll have the worst criminal on your back. Izuku grinned. All Might. I'm coming for you. The day before the sports festival, Shigaraki sat in front of a TV, his hands poised over the controller, using only 4 of his fingers in each hand. He was playing a Pokemon game, trying to beat a tough gym leader. Jiren, Kurojiri, and Izuku arrived via a purple portal, stepping into the bar. Izuku immediately scanned the room and then looked over at Shigaraki, who didn't seem to acknowledge him. So, you're the guy I have to convince to join? Izuku asked, a grin forming on his face. Shigaraki didn't look away from the screen. Izuku waited a few seconds before sitting next to him, his eyes focused on the game. If you want to beat that gym leader, start with Pikachu and use electric moves, Izuku suggested. Then SWCH to your main strategy. Shigaraki briefly glanced at Izuku, his interest piqued. But it's a fire-type gym. Shouldn't I start with Poliwrath? Izuku shook his head. Poliwrath would be a good choice if the first Pokemon wasn't a Talonflame. It's faster and would knock out Poliwrath with a flying move before it could even use water gun. Pikachu, on the other hand, could survive and use electric attacks, which Talonflame is weak to. Shigaraki smirked. You know your stuff. Alright, you're almost in. But tell me, why do you want to join? Izuku's eyes narrowed, his voice dripping with hatred. I want to kill All Might. I want to impale his old wound with my claws and twist it while he begs for mercy. Shigaraki's grin grew even wider. You and I are going to get along just fine. He extended his hand, 4 fingers outstretched. Izuku met his handshake with a firm grip, his grin matching Shigaraki's. I look forward to it, Izuku said with cold excitement. Later that night Kurojiiri had shown Izuku to his room, and now the two sat in the living room. Izuku glanced over at Shigaraki, who was back to his game. Hey, Shigaraki, Izuku asked, does your quirk spread to other things, or just the stuff you touch? Shigaraki, focused on his game, answered distractedly, just the things I touch. Izuku smiled. Well, my quirk's like a game. The more people I drink from, the stronger I get. I even get new abilities. Shigaraki chuckled. Sounds a bit OP, don't you think? Izuku's grin never wavered. It is. But who are we to complain? Shigaraki snickered and returned to his game. Izuku leaned back, eyes narrowing as he thought, let's see how far you go, Shigaraki. Chapter 7, Festival. Midoriya and Shigaraki were on the bar playing Mario Kart, when All for One called from the monitor. Red both stopped playing immediately and clumsily stood in front of the monitor. Yes, All for One. Answered Red cautiously, I have a mission for you to complete. You must go to the sports festival and analyze the hero students from all 3 years, especially first year, said All for One. Okay, I don't think it will be much of a challenge, said Midoriya with a smile. Midoriya was in front of UA with blue jeans, a red shirt, a black hoodie, blonde hair and his green eyes. He chuckles before thinking, who would think I was going to be at the UA one day? He entered the building as the other guests and took a sit on the first row. He took out his notebook and waited for the festival to start. I think is a little stupid to show their powers and abilities to the world, is literally the reason of why I am here, Midoriya thought and chuckled. The festival started with a few words from Bakugo. He looked at the public and said, I will be the best, just watch me. Many people in the audience didn't like the little speech including Midoriya. He is still a dumbass, he thought while closing his fist in anger. The first event went naturally without anything too interesting to note. The only ones powerful enough to be a problem is Bakugo, Endeavor's son, and that blonde girl, he thought while writing about the hero students. The second event was a better show-off. He saw more of others like the gravity girl who looked interesting, and the kid with purple hair, Shinso. He isn't from the hero course but looks like he has a strong quirk. From what I've seen it looks like brainwashing. He wrote something on his notebook about him also. The Todoroki guy doesn't uses his fire. I wonder why. There was a break before the final event, so he sneaked into the students area. He checked some rooms and stumbled upon a room with the gravity girl. Hello, I'm Akasaku, greeted Midoriya. The girl was surprised from his presence but returned the greeting. Hello, I am Uraraka. Do you need something? I haven't seen you around UA. In which class are you? Midoriya shake his hands in front of him. Well, I am not from UA, but you were the one I was looking for. He lies. I was looking for the Todoroki kid, but find her, who will fight Bakugo, works for me, he thought. Huh? Why? Asked Uraraka while tilting her head. Well, I have known Kaken since I was a child, so I think I could help you to beat him, he answered, regretting the slip of the old nickname. Kaken. Oh. You mean Bakugo? Well, I don't think I can beat him, but I have to try for myself if I want to prove I can do it alone, said Uraraka with determination. She has determination, thought Midoriya, and then smiled. Very well, I hope you win. Good luck, he said while leaving. He had to get back to the stands, to see the start of the third event. The fight between the brainwasher and the blonde girl was interesting. He is insulting her, making her talk, and she doesn't respond. That means that he has a brainwashing ability that works through responding him. He must be in general course because his quirk doesn't work on robots, thought Midoriya while writing. that event was won by the blonde girl and Shinso didn't seem to prove his potential to the heroes. But for Midoriya he did. The next rounds Midoriya didn't had anything extraordinary to write, the Todoroki kid still didn't use his fire but he didn't need it. The crow boy had a very interesting quirk. The vines girl had a very powerful quirk. The girl with pink hair was problematic and a genius, Midoriya considered recruiting her dash. And so on, until it got to Uraraka versus Bakugo. The fight was one-sided to Bakugo, he attacked without compassion, even though Uraraka made a few good tricks, Bakugo ended up winning. So bad, I wish she could have beat him, thought Midoriya while sighing. The next round was the most interesting of them all. It was Melissa Shield. Midoriya saw her name on the screen, against Todoroki. She moved faster than the ice so she hasn't been damaged yet. I see yellow energy on her body, maybe a speed quirk. Thought Midoriya. Todoroki tried to corner her but she destroyed the ice with a flick of her finger, breaking her finger, so is super strength, but is too powerful for her body. A late boomer maybe. The fight went on, exchanging ice and flick of fingers, when Melissa got an opening, launched herself and punched Todoroki out of the ring. He would have won if he had used his fire, thought Midoriya while writing. He had already written 20 pages of the festival. Midoriya got up and went to search the Todoroki kid. After some time of searching he found him on one of the rooms for the participants, sitting there. Hi there, said Midoriya. Todoroki quickly got up and took a defensive pose. Who are you? Asked Todoroki. Midoriya raised his hands showing no bad intentions. I am Akasaku, and I wanted to know why you didn't use fire to beat the blonde girl, said Izuku with curiosity. I won't use his fire, answered Todoroki dryly while looking directly on Midoriya's green eyes. You mean endeavors? Asked Midoriya. Yes, I won't be like him, I won't use his fire, answered Todoroki. Midoriya thinks for a moment, this could be convenient, then says, well, if I were you, I would use his fire to do the opposite of what he wants. What do you mean? Asked Todoroki. Midoriya smirks and starts leaving. When he is at the door he says without looking back, I will let you discover that by yourself. He goes back to the stands where he got to see the last fight between the Ida kid and Bakugo. Melissa must be too injured to continue. The fight was one-sided by a lot. Bakugo didn't even try it and easily defeated the other boy. Bakugo started shouting things about, not a good fight, or, Blondie or half and half had to be here, when they were giving the awards. Bakugo was chained like a dog, a sight that made Midoriya smile. Just what you deserve. The Crow Kid was in third place, Melissa was in second because Ida needed to go, and Bakugo was in first place. When All Might arrived, Midoriya left the place. He didn't want to see that BSTRD. 1 hour later, Midoriya arrived to the Yuzel bar where he found Shigaraki playing as usual and Kurojairi cleaning some glasses. Hey Kurojairi, could you give AFO this please? Asked Midoriya to Kurojairi, who nodded. At least that's what Midoriya understood. And grabbed the notebook. Disappearing in his mist, Midoriya sat next to Shigaraki and grabbed a second controller. Maybe I will recruit some people from UA, he thought while grinning. Chapter 8, Red Stains. Bakugo was preparing for his training session with the number 4 hero. His time at UA had been far from what he expected. Icy Hot had done better than him in the first test with All Might, and only lost to Blondie at the sports festival because he didn't use his fire. Bakugo had won, but it wasn't the win he wanted. Blondie and Icy Hot should have been in the finals so Bakugo could prove he was the strongest. But instead, they forced him to take the medal, chaining him like a dog. That Blondie was the most annoying of them all, yet Bakugo couldn't fully understand why. He'd always hated anyone who talked to him, but there was something about her that got under his skin. Well, that wasn't entirely true. Deep down, Bakugo knew why. Shield reminded him of Deku, someone with an unbreakable will, a nerd who wanted to be a hero no matter what. That similarity made Bakugo angry. But it also made him sad, bringing back memories of his dead friend. Was I even his friend, he wondered, but those thoughts quickly vanished. No matter what, Bakugo would be the number 1 hero. No one was going to stop him. Meanwhile, in Kamino, Midoriya was preparing to meet All for One. He'd never seen him before, nor did he fully understand his quirk, but he knew All for One was one of the most dangerous and powerful villains in the world. Are you ready, young Red? Kurogiri asked, his voice as calm and collected as ever. Yeah. Ready as I could be when I'm about to meet one of the most dangerous men alive, Midoriya replied, his tone cautious. Shigaraki chuckled from the background. Just don't PSS him off, or you'll be dead. Thanks for the support, Midoriya said sarcastically, though his mind was more focused on the thought, I wonder if Sir Death would revive me again if things go wrong. As they stepped through the portal, they emerged in a warehouse filled with nomas. At the far end, in a chair that seemed more like a throne, was sitting a man with no eyes, nose, or ears. Midoriya had to choke out a laugh. All for One looked like a giant thumb. But he quickly shook that thought off. It's a pleasure to meet you in person, Red Tooth, All for One greeted, his voice surprisingly warm. Jiren and Tamura have spoken highly of you. Good things, I hope, Midoriya responded with a grin, trying to keep the atmosphere light. All for One chuckled, his voice tinged with amusement. I have great plans for you. I expect great things from you as well. But something intrigues me. How did you acquire your quirk? Midoriya paused, considering how much to reveal. He knows my face. If I show my face to a man with this kind of power, it'll probably be easy for him to figure out my identity. It's obvious he knows already, he thought. After a moment, he replied, it's a long story, one I'd prefer to keep a secret for now. At least until I make my big reveal. I respect your privacy, All for One said, leaning back. But let me offer something. With your intellect, my doctor would be very pleased if you worked alongside him for scientific research. Said All for One, changing the subject. Midoriya raised an eyebrow. Doctor. Must be the one keeping All for One alive, or maybe he's the one making the nomas, he thought before nodding. I'm not an expert in that area, but I learn quickly. All for One grinned, as if anticipating this response. We'll see how quickly you learn. But now, I have another proposition for you. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. What if I offered you the position of my successor instead of Tamura? Without hesitation, Midoriya replied, I'd decline. I don't want to lead. I don't want to take anything from Shigaraki either. I'll remain loyal to him, help him achieve his dream, to destroy everything we don't like. And then, rebuild it however we please. All for One regarded him thoughtfully, clearly impressed by Midoriya's answer. Who would have guessed this kid would turn down such an offer, he thought, although his expression remained neutral. Well said, All for One replied. But we'll talk about that later. Let's move on to other matters. I've reviewed your notes on UA students. Your analytical abilities are quite impressive. It's an honor to receive a compliment from someone like you, Izuku said, his tone respectful but guarded. As a token of my regard, All for One continued, I'll share a bit of information with you. About my quirk. And my brother's quirk. Midoriya's eyes widened. He has a brother. Who is he? My quirk is as my villain name suggests, All for One. It allows me to take quirks from others, use them, and even give them to others, All for One explained. Midoriya's eyes lit up with understanding. That's a Type 6 quirk. With that, you could become immortal and invincible if you collect the right quirks. All for One nodded. Yes, but my brother's quirk One for All is the one I truly longing. However, it's difficult to steal. Midoriya's thoughts raced. One for All. It sounds like the opposite of your quirk. If All for One is about taking quirks, then One for All must be about passing it on. A quirk that can be inherited. All for One gave a faint smile. Correct. And All Might holds that quirk. But it's not easy to take. Midoriya blinked. All Might didn't even have a quirk to begin with. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. He was just like me. He clenched his fists, a deep anger rising within him. He's a hypocrite. He said I couldn't be a hero without a quirk, but he wanted to be one himself without one. I'll K that BSTRD. All for One smirked, sensing the depth of Izuku's rage. Go back to Tamura. Let's make some chaos. Destroy this society that worships All Might. Midoriya's eyes burned with determination. I will. He turned and walked toward the portal. Midoriya stepped out of the portal, his mind still seething with anger. He turned and greeted his friend. Shigaraki, we need to act fast. We need to kill All Might. Shigaraki didn't even ask how the meeting had gone. Instead, he looked at Midoriya and smirked. What's your plan? Midoriya grinned darkly. We need to recruit more powerful members. We'll build our strength, gain fame, and create even more chaos. Shigaraki laughed, already on board. I think Stain should be our first recruit, then looked at Kurogiri and commanded, go search for him. Kurogiri nodded and disappeared through a portal to find Stain. The following days, Midoriya had been spending his time learning from the doctor and playing games with Shigaraki. But today, Kurogiri returned with news. Stain was on his way. The purple portal appeared in the corner of the bar, and Stain stepped through, his cold eyes scanning the room. Kurogiri quickly went to clean some glasses. Shigaraki leaned back, a mocking grin on his face. So, you're the famous hero killer. I expected more. Midoriya watched from a distance, his eyes narrowed in thought. He's a maniac, plain and simple. He kills heroes for his own twisted sense of justice. Stain's eyes narrowed. I don't have time for games. If you don't have anything useful for me, I'll leave. Kurogiri quickly intervened, trying to defuse the tension. Please listen. We have the same enemies. We want to change the world. Shigaraki scoffed. I see a lunatic who thinks he's better than everyone else. Stain's eyes flared with anger. The world of heroes is rotten. Only the true heroes must remain. The rest must be purged. Midoriya could feel the tension building in the room. He could already tell this wouldn't go smoothly. Shigaraki sneered. And what? You think you're some divine judge, killing heroes just because you can? That's stupid. At least I have conviction, Stain retorted, stepping forward. What is your purpose? To destroy All Might and everything he represents. Shigaraki shouted, his voice dripping with venom. You're just a kid, destroying everything for no reason. You're no different from those fake heroes, Stain spat back. Without warning, Shigaraki lunged at Stain, but the older man was faster, pinning him to the floor with one of his swords pressed to his shoulder. I'll purge you, Stain said with fury. You don't understand what All Might represents. Midoriya was done listening. He rushed forward, grabbing Stain by the neck and throwing him into the wall. His voice was cold, filled with venom. You want to talk about All Might like he's a hero. You don't even know what you're saying. Because of him, I'm here. Because of him, people died. He's no hero. He glared at Stain with pure hatred. I have a purpose. To kill all the so-called heroes, to destroy this rotten society, and rebuild it as we see fit. That's my purpose. With Stain stunned, Midoriya walked to Kurogiri. Take him back to Hosu. Kurogiri teleported Saturn to a rooftop, and Midoriya watched as he went away. So, what now? Shigaraki grinned and answered, I already asked some nomas from Sensei, let's see if Stain dies in the chaos. Midoriya smiled and nodded. After some minutes Kurogiri brought 3 nomas, and set them free. Time passed and they just stayed there waiting, when Midoriya glimpsed a helicopter of the news that was recording them. Looks like I am going to be recognized to work with the League, he thought. Midoriya checked on the nomas using his observation ability and saw that only one was remaining. As for Stain, he was fighting against Shield, Ida, and an old man in a yellow suit, and it seemed that he was losing. We should go, there is only one noma remaining, said Izuku. Oki, said Shigaraki, a little angry. They went back at the bar, and without them knowing, Stain had left a message to the world that would make waves among people, and it would link back to them. Elsewhere in the city, a blonde girl with fangs smiled as she watched a video about Stain and the League. Red Tooth is in that league. If I join, maybe he'll give me some, she muttered to herself giddily. A burned man, watching the same video, thought bitterly, the League of Villains shares the right ideals. Stain's ideals. Maybe I should join. A lizard-like man smiles at the video with tears of happiness in his eyes. I want to be someone like him. I must follow his path, he said to himself. Midoriya sat back at the bar, watching the video of Stain's message. He looked at the white-haired young man. Shigaraki, I think we're going to have a new party for the next level, he said with a smile on his face. Chapter 9, Bloody Friend. Midoriya sat on the couch, waiting for Jiren to arrive. He was bringing 2 new recruits, so both Shigaraki and Midoriya needed to be there. They were dressed in casual clothes, blending into the dimly lit bar. After several minutes of waiting, Midoriya sighed and stood up. Yeah, he's taking too long. I'm going to the bathroom, he said to Shigaraki before leaving the room. Just moments later, the door swung open, and Jiren stepped inside, accompanied by a man covered in burn scars and a blonde girl wearing a school uniform. The recruits scanned the bar, the girl's eyes actively searching for something or someone. So, you brought me a brat and a burned man. Shigaraki scoffed, visibly unimpressed. Jiren smirked. They're some of the best out there. TCH, Tamura rolled his eyes before turning his attention to the newcomers. And you two, what are your names, and why do you want to join? The scarred man crossed his arms. You can call me Dabi. I admire Stain's ideology. That's why I'm here. Then, the girl stepped forward with an excited smile. I'm Toga Himiko. And I'm here too. She suddenly paused as the door at the back of the bar opened. Midoriya re-entered the room, and the moment her eyes landed on him, they sparkled with excitement. Without hesitation, she lunged at him, knife in hand. Midoriya swiftly dodged her attack and, in a blur, pressed his claws against her neck in warning. Why is one of the recruits attacking me? He glanced at Jiren, then back at Toga. What do you want? He asked, his voice calm but firm. Toga turned to face him, cheeks flushed with excitement. I want your BLD. Midoriya raised an eyebrow, momentarily surprised, before relaxing. Oh, just that. Why didn't you just ask? He withdrew his claws and rolled up his sleeve. Go ahead, use your fangs. Take what you need. Toga's eyes widened. Really? She asked, her voice dripping with anticipation. Midoriya shrugged. Yeah, I don't care. Without hesitation, she stepped closer, sinking her teeth into his shoulder, blushing as she drank. Drink as much as you want, Midoriya muttered, watching her curiously. Toga wrapped her arms around him in a sudden hug, causing Midoriya's face to heat up. Who would have thought a killer with 30 bodies under his belt would blush over a hug? Kurojiri remarked from behind the counter. Midoriya shot him a look. Oh, so now you have a sense of humor. Meanwhile, Shigaraki scratched his neck furiously, irritation evident on his face. Ugh, everyone's obsessed with Red and Stain. But what about me? I orchestrated the Hosu attack. I nearly killed All Might. And yet, no one acknowledges me. Frustrated, he stood up and stormed out of the bar. Midoriya watched him go before gently prying Toga off. I'm going to talk to Shigaraki. I'll be back later. Toga pouted as she watched him leave. I'll show you to your rooms, Kurojiri said, gesturing for the recruits to follow. Midoriya caught up with Shigaraki at a nearby mall. Hey, what's wrong? He asked, walking alongside him. TCH, everyone keeps talking about you and Stain, but no one talks about me. Shigaraki snapped. I attacked you, I attacked Hosu. Why do they acknowledge you instead of me? He glared at Midoriya, waiting for an answer. Midoriya tilted his head, gazing at the ceiling in thought. You should expand your ideology. I saw it and joined you. Maybe others just don't understand what they're missing. Make them know your name. Make them respect it. Fear it. And then, everyone will look at you. Shigaraki chuckled. You always know how to lift my mood, he said, bumping Midoriya's shoulder. As they wandered through the mall, they spotted a group of you, students. Shigaraki grinned. Why don't we take things up a notch with one of them? Midoriya smirked. Alright, but I get to choose. Shigaraki nodded. Who's the target? Midoriya's eyes landed on a particular student. How about the frog girl? I wonder if her BLD tastes different. Shigaraki chuckled. Alright, let's wait for her to separate from the group. After a few moments, Tsuyu Azui wandered into a shoe store alone. Midoriya stood up, stretching. Let's get this party started. They followed her until she was far from other people. Midoriya approached casually. Hey, I think I got lost. Know any good restaurants that serve frog dishes? Azui turned, instantly recognizing him. Her eyes widened. Red Tooth, she shouted, leaping backward. Midoriya groaned. Ugh, did you really have to make it dramatic? Where's the fun in being subtle? Midoriya quipped before chasing after Azui. She moved quickly, her agility making it difficult for Midoriya to catch her. Parkouring through the store, she stayed ahead, forcing Midoriya to push himself. Would you stop moving for just a second? He called out in frustration. Moments later, Shigaraki sighed. We should go. The heroes will be here soon. Midoriya clicked his tongue but relented. Well, see you around, frog girl. I still want to taste that BLD of yours, he said with a grin before retreating with Shigaraki. As they made their way to the exit, Shigaraki sent a quick text. A second later, a purple portal opened. Shigaraki stepped in immediately, but as Midoriya followed, his gaze landed on Bakugo. The sight of him made Midoriya's BLD boil. Without thinking, he gathered energy, his arm glowing dark red before he launched an energy attack larger than any before. Bakugo barely dodged in time, eyes wide with shock. But he didn't recognize Midoriya. Midoriya didn't linger. He turned and stepped into the portal without looking back. Back at the bar, Shigaraki slumped onto the couch. Well, that was a waste of time. Midoriya chuckled. At least we stirred up some chaos. That's always fun. Toga was sitting nearby, watching Midoriya with sparkling eyes. He turned to her, raising an eyebrow. Do you want more, or why are you staring at me like that? She beamed. You're the first person to ever offer me there. Dabi scoffed, sipping his soda. Get a room. Midoriya blushed. Shut up, you cheap endeavor. Tamura chuckled, and Toga giggled, but Dabi's expression darkened. Don't. Ever. Compare me to Endeavor, he said, his voice cold as ice. Midoriya's eyes narrowed. That look, I've seen it before. In Todoroki's eyes. A fire user, covered in burns, hates Endeavor, he started piecing it together. Endeavor had 3 sons, all with ice quirks. But there was a 4th, who supposedly died in a fire caused by his quirk. By now, he'd be around his age. Toya Todoroki, after a moment, Midoriya smirked. Okay, my bad. Let me make it up to you. He leaned in slightly. I promise you. We'll burn Endeavor and his reputation to the ground even if he's already in flames. Dabi stared at him before smirking. You sure know how to convince people, don't you? Yeah, he does, Shigaraki agreed. I have my tricks. Midoriya grinned before grabbing a game controller. Now, while we wait for more recruits, who's up for a game? Dabi chuckled. First day in the league, and this is my initiation. Shigaraki smirked. You know I never back down. Toga giggled. Only if I sit next to you, Midoriya sighed. Yeah, they'll be loyal. My plans won't change because of them. He smirked, starting the game. Chapter 10. I read the following days, more people joined the league. One day, Izuku went to Tamura's room to talk to him. Hey, Shigaraki, he said, tossing some papers onto the bed. Here's the analysis on the new members you asked for. Shigaraki paused his game, grabbed the papers, and started reading. The files read, Dobby quirk, blue fire, stronger than Endeavor's, but it burns his own body. Class motives, kill Endeavor. Loyalty, if we keep our promise to destroy Endeavor, he'll be completely loyal. Himiko Toga quirk, transformation, can transform into someone depending on the amount of BLD she consumes of them. Can't copy quirks. Red Tooth's does not work for unknown reasons. Class motives, Red Tooth fan loyalty, as long as I stay in the league and give her my, she'll be completely loyal. TCH, looks like you already have a girlfriend, Tamura muttered with a grin. Shut up. Izuku whined. Jin Babaigawara, twice, quirk, twice, can create 2 clones of anyone as long as he knows their exact body dimensions. Clones retain the quirk of the original. Theoretically, he can clone himself infinitely, but due to trauma, he doesn't. Class 6, downgraded to Class 5 due to his mental condition. Motives, just wants to be around crazy people. Loyalty, if we befriend him, he will be loyal. I don't mind being his friend. Magna quirk, magnetism, can create magnetic fields around people. Women are negative, men are positive. Works only on living beings but is powerful with teamwork. Class motives, wants an easier life and to change hero society. Loyalty, values camaraderie. As long as we don't betray her, she won't betray us. Sogo Sita, spinner, quirk, lizard tail split, mutant type quirk that gives him a lizard-like appearance and allows him to stick to walls. Class relies on swords tied together rather than his quirk. Motives, wants to follow Stain's ideology. Loyalty, unknown. If he learns we don't share Stain's beliefs, he may leave. Kotaro Atsushi, mustard, quirk, nerve, generates and controls a gas that knocks out anyone who breathes it, including himself. Can sense movement within the gas. Class motives, wants to belong somewhere. Loyalty, if we accept him as one of us, he'll be loyal. Tomoya Suji, Mr. Compress, quirk, compression, can compress anything he touches into a small blue ball and later decompress it. Class motives, wants to change society. Loyalty, unknown. Moonfish quirk, sharp teeth, can grow and control his teeth, which are durable but not unbreakable. Class motives, wants human flesh. Loyalty, low. If someone offers him more flesh, he'll swch sides. May not follow orders well. Koku Hanabira, muscular, quirk, muscle augmentation, allows him to grow additional muscle mass, greatly enhancing his strength. Class motives, craves and violence. Loyalty, very low. May abandon us when he gets bored and might ignore direct orders. After reading, Tamura smirked. Well, it's a good start, don't you think? These recruits look promising. Yeah, the only ones I don't like are muscular and moonfish. They're just violent with no standards, Izuku replied. Well, the attack is in 2 weeks. Why don't we do something while we wait? Tamura suggested. Izuku grinned. I've got an idea for some fun. Everyone except Moonfish and Muscular was in the bar when Izuku entered, slamming the door. Who wants to take a trip to I-Island with Shigaraki and me? Toga immediately jumped up, raising her hand. Me. Me. Tamura, standing next to Izuku, whispered just loud enough for him to hear, first date or what? Izuku blushed but ignored him. 3 of you can come. And the selection will be rock paper scissors. Wonderful. I join a villain group, and they play video games and rock paper scissors, Dobby mumbled. After a few rounds, Toga, Mr. Compress, and Dobby, who tried to lose multiple times, won. Twice. Why did you use scissors 4 times in a row when I kept using rock? Dobby complained. I don't know. Twice answered proudly. Izuku smiled at the group. Shigaraki and Dobby will wear face masks, and Mr. Compress won't wear his. That way, no one will recognize us. We leave tomorrow. As the sun raised, Toga, Dobby, Mr. Compress, Tamura, and Izuku stood at the bar in civilian clothes as Kurogiri prepared a portal. Well, Kurogiri, can you make a portal to I-Island? Izuku asked. Of course, young Red, Kurogiri replied before opening a portal. They stepped through, emerging in an alleyway on I-Island. Izuku turned to the group. So, where do you want to go first? What do you want to do? Let's have fun first, then cause some chaos. Toga cheered, raising her hand excitedly. Okay, where do you want to go? Izuku asked with a smile. And why is your girlfriend the one deciding? Tamura teased, crossing his arms. She's not my girlfriend, handyman. Izuku stammered, blushing. Let's go check out the new tech. Toga said, grabbing Izuku's wrist and dragging him along. The group explored cutting-edge technology, ate, played pool, and ended up at a robot destruction challenge. Our next contestant, Katsuki Bakugo, the announcer called. Izuku flinched. It was barely noticeable to most, but Tamura caught it. Hey, Red, Tamura said, glancing at him. You know that explosive brat. Izuku stayed silent for a moment before answering. Yeah. We knew each other as kids, not in a friendly way. Toga frowned. We should kill him. No one messes with Red and gets away with it. Thanks, Toga, but not now. I'm curious how he'll react in the future, Izuku replied. As the night fell, Toga pouted. So now what? We can't get into the I-Expo. Izuku grinned. Well, 3 kind gentlemen gave me their passes. He pulled out 3 tickets and thought, let's see how much time it takes then to find the bodies. Toga's eyes sparkled. Thank you, she cheered, hugging him. Blushing, Izuku looked away. And no problem. Mr. Compress smirked. What a lovely couple, shut up, magician clown. Izuku shot back, pulling away from Toga. Who's coming to the I-Expo? I'll be busy stealing things, Mr. Compress said. I'll help him, Tamura added with a grin after getting an idea. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect that. He turned to Toga and Dobby. Looks like it's just us. Go change into something formal. We'll meet at the entrance. Okay. Toga and Dobby agreed. Toga arrived at the entrance of the I-Expo in a red dress and found some UA students waiting there as well. She didn't have anything to do, so she approached a girl in a pink dress. Hey there, what's your name? Asked Toga. The girl turned around to see Toga. Oh, my name's Uraraka Achiko. Nice to meet you, she answered with a smile. Toga smiled back. Toga Himiko, nice to meet you too, Achiko. Well, who are you waiting for? Asked Uraraka. 2 friends of mine, answered Toga. Yeah, we're waiting for 2 people too, said Uraraka. They were quiet for a moment before Toga asked, do you want to talk about the boys we like? Uraraka blinked, surprised by the sudden odd question, then said, okay, but I don't like anyone. Well, I do. One of the 2 friends I'm waiting for, Toga said. Yeah. What's he like? Asked Uraraka with curiosity. Well, he's been very nice, funny, and handsome, said Toga, blushing. You really seem to like him, said Uraraka kindly. Yes. I like his red eyes a lot. It's my favorite color, added Toga. They continued talking when Melissa and the others noticed Toga and turned to talk to her. "Hi, my name is Melissa Shield. You can call me Melissa. This is Yaoyorozu, Kaminari, Jairu, Ida, Todoroki, Mineta, and you already know Uraraka," said Melissa. Everyone greeted Toga, and she did the same. After a while of talking, Dabi and Izuku arrived. Izuku in a green suit, his blue scarf, green hair, and red eyes, and Dabi in a dark suit, a red scarf covering his wounds, and sunglasses hiding the wounds beneath his eyes. "Hi, Toga. Sorry for being late." This grumpy candle didn't want to wear formal clothes, and it took a while to convince him, said Izuku with a smile. Uraraka whispered to Toga, "I see what you mean, he is funny." Toga giggled, then said to Izuku, "Don't worry." She then turned to the group and introduced them, Izuku as Akeo Reiji and Dabi as Dabi Hamura. They talked for a while when Dabi, who had been quiet the entire conversation, said, "We should get going, don't you think?" Izuku looked at him. He must not be in the mood because of Todoroki, he thought, then said, "Well, yeah, we show." Suddenly, metal doors slammed shut nearby, and a red light appeared. "I don't think that was Shigaraki and Mr. Compress," thought Izuku. "Those are the security systems activating. Some villains might have breached the island," said a worried Melissa. "We should check how they're doing inside. I think there's a window at the top." "Let's see," said Yaoyorozu. "Yeah, there is." "Follow me," replied Melissa, heading towards some nearby stairs, with everyone following. They reached the top of the room, where they could see heroes and scientists being held hostage by several villains. Even All Might was there. Izuku flinched at the sight of All Might and clenched his fists in anger, but no one noticed except for Toga, who grabbed his wrist and gave him a comforting smile, making him blush. They decided to go to floor 200 and stop the villains. "You should stay here," said Melissa to Izuku's group. "Yes, I agree. We're heroes in training. You're just civilians. The best thing is for you to stay here," said Yaoyorozu. "Okay, we will," Izuku responded almost immediately, though Toga puffed her cheeks in disagreement. The UA students started their journey, leaving Toga, Dabi, and Izuku alone. "Why didn't we go?" asked Toga. "Well, if we attack Todoroki and Melissa at the same time, it might be more difficult than if we attack them separately. So, we're going to take a shortcut, wait for them to disperse, and then attack," answered Izuku. "And what's this shortcut you know about?" asked Dabi with a raised eyebrow. "The elevator, of course. We'll climb it, they always have some stairs next to it," said Izuku. They went to the nearest elevator and started climbing. After climbing a bit, the elevator began to rise, Izuku thought, just as planned. He knew the cameras would spot them, and the villains would likely try to kill them by crushing the elevator. "Jump to the elevator," shouted Izuku. They followed his command and began climbing as the elevator ascended. When they reached floor 180, the elevator stopped. "Now what?" asked Dabi. "Now we'll go to the top. There, we'll split up to attack the students and help the villains," said Izuku with a grin. At the top floor, they found 2 scientists and 3 villains, with the largest one, wearing a metal mask, facing them. "Turn back, brats, or I'll kill you," the man with the mask warned. Izuku walked slowly toward him. "But we're not here to disturb you. In fact, we want to help you." "Yeah. And why?" the man asked with a raised eyebrow. "Well, we're villains too, and attacking some UA students who are trying to stop you would be a pleasure for us," Izuku answered while walking, stopping just a few feet from the man. "You tell us where they are, and we'll go after them. Do we have a deal?" Izuku extended his hand. The man grinned and accepted the handshake. "We have a deal. But what's your name?" "I'm Wolfram." "Well, Wolfram, in Japan, I'm known as Red Tooth." Izuku revealed his teeth with a grin. "No," shouted David Shield, Melissa's father. "He's a dangerous villain. He's already killed 32 people in just 4 months," he added. Well, this just got better than I thought, Wolfram said with a smile. He led them to the security cameras to pinpoint the students' locations. Who are you going to attack? Asked Wolfram. Todoroki, Dabi answered immediately. I'll go after Ochako, said Toga. I'll go after Melissa, said Izuku. Ha! Why Melissa and not Bakugo? I thought you'd rather attack him, Toga asked, confused. Yes, but I have some questions for that girl, Izuku replied. They each went to different floors to carry out their objectives. Dabi arrived at a floor with a giant garden, where 2 villains and 3 students were fighting. Among them was Todoroki Shoto. When he saw an opportunity, he launched a fire attack at Todoroki, but Todoroki managed to block it with ice. Todoroki then saw Dabi and recognized him from the entrance. What are you doing, Hamura? Todoroki asked. Well, we were planning to cause some chaos, but it seems others already started it, so we're just going to help, Dabi grinned. They exchanged ice and fire attacks. Dabi wasn't trying yet, but Todoroki didn't use his fire in any of the clash of attacks. Why don't you use his fire? Dabi asked. Because I don't need it, Todoroki replied dryly. Dabi jumped back, stopping his attack. Huh, maybe you're not as bad as I thought, he said before turning and running away. Maybe he could be useful to get my revenge on Endeavor. He thought Uraraka had just sent Melissa flying with her quirk when she saw Bakugo destroying some robots nearby. Suddenly, she noticed someone attacking her from behind. She jumped to the side and turned around, finding Toga with a knife in hand. Toga. What are you doing? Uraraka asked. I'm getting some of your isn't it obvious? Toga answered with a smile. You were with the villains. Uraraka exclaimed, surprised. Well, no, but yes, Toga said. Ha! Uraraka replied, confused. I mean, I am a villain, and I'm with the villains. But I didn't know the villains would take control of the tower, Toga explained. But why are you a villain? You seemed so nice before. What will Reiji think about it? Uraraka tried to convince Toga. Well, he's a villain too, and he always gives me some of his. I'm his fan. Did you know he's famous? Toga replied. A famous villain. At that age. Who is he? Uraraka asked. Red Tooth, answered Toga. Uraraka took a step back, surprised. Red Tooth. But I didn't see him as a maniac killer, she said. Before Toga could respond, an explosion from Bakugo nearly hit her, but she managed to dodge. F you lunatic sucker! Shouted Bakugo angrily. Ugh, I see why Red doesn't like you. You had to ruin the fun, Toga said before turning and running away. Melissa was almost at the last floor when she arrived at the final door and was greeted by Izuku blocking the door, whose hair was now red. Well, just who I was looking for, Izuku said with a grin. Reiji. What are you doing here? And why is your hair red? Melissa asked. I'll skip the suspense. I'm Red Tooth, and I've made an alliance with the villains. So, I have to stop you, Izuku said. Melissa prepared to fight. Move aside or else, she threatened, her face angry. No, Izuku said. He tilted his head and added, well, it depends if your answer to my questions. Which questions? Melissa asked in curiosity. Yeah. It's interesting that you suddenly got your quirk, you know. Just a few months before joining UA. It seems odd, Izuku said, watching her movements. WL, yes. I'm a late bloomer. Sometimes that happens, Melissa said, a little anxious. I don't like where this conversation is going, she thought. Let's see. The other reason you might have gotten a quirk is because of another quirk, Izuku said, making Melissa even more worried. Her expression showed it, which made Izuku smile. There are 2 quirks I know that can give a quirk, all for one, he paused dramatically. And one for all. What do I do? What do I do? Melissa thought with a worried face. By the look on your face, it seems I'm right. Thank you for the answers, and don't worry, I won't tell anyone. I'll be going now, Izuku said, running off and leaving the door open for Melissa to pass. The trio reunited shortly after. How did you do? Izuku asked. Well enough, Dabi answered. Wonderful. Toga said. But that kamikaze kid ruined the fun, she added dryly. Well, we should get going, Izuku said, texting Kurogiri on his phone. Moments later, the iconic portal appeared. We did what we wanted. Now let's see how they fare at the camp, Izuku said with a grin as he stepped through the portal. Extra, Izuku and the rest of the league were at the bar, chatting about how things went during the eye attack, as Twice liked to call it. I liked the attack, said Toga with a big smile. I made some new friends. You know they were our enemies, right? Dabi asked flatly. Toga puffed out her cheeks. Shut up, grumpy candle. Izuku pretended to be deeply offended. Did you just steal my joke? Yes, Toga replied with a mischievous grin. Speaking of stealing, Dabi said, turning to Shigaraki and Mr. Compress, what did you two steal? Shigaraki smirked and pulled out a blue marble that transformed into a box. We stole, he opened it and revealed a sleek device. A Nintendo SWCH, he announced with a proud smile. Izuku stared at him, deadpan. So, on a heavily guarded island, with tech strong enough to stop pro-heroes and even an army of robots, you stole a game console. Tamura looked thoughtful for a second, scratching his neck. Yeah, you know that if you weren't my friend, I'd kill you, right? Izuku said calmly. Yeah, Tamura answered just as calmly. After a short pause, Izuku picked up the console with a smile. So, are we playing or what? Shigaraki smiled. Of course. Chapter 11, Silence. Before everyone was at the bar waiting for Shigaraki, with Midoriya leaning on the bar with his left arm, surrounded by the league. Toga chatted with Magna and Twice on the couch. Dabi sat alone, like always. Mustard was arguing with Mr. Compress, trying to convince him that Melissa was actually All Might's daughter and not David Shields. Spinner was gaming on his phone, Moonfish was lost in madness, Kurogiri cleaned glasses, and Muscular was his usual grumpy self. Then Shigaraki walked in. So, Shigaraki, what's the plan? Midoriya asked casually. Shigaraki sat beside him, smirking as he glanced around the room. We're going to attack the training camp. We'll kidnap one of the students and try to recruit them. Midoriya raised an eyebrow. Who exactly? If someone's in a hero school, it's because they want to be a hero, not a villain. I'm thinking the explosive kid, Shigaraki replied. He acts like a villain. He might become one. You know him, right? Maybe you could convince him. Yeah, no, Midoriya said flatly. Why? Because you two don't get along. Shigaraki asked. Midoriya grimaced. It's more than that. He's stubborn as hell. Too much pride to turn villain. But if you're looking for recruits, I've got 4 other options. First, Shoto Todoroki. At the mention of the name, Dabi subtly flinched. He's got daddy issues with Endeavor, the number 2 hero. He's strong, and with the right push, we might turn him. Second, Ochiko Uraraka. Toga's ears perked up, her face lighting up at the idea of recruiting her friend. Her family's poor. We could use that, but I talked to her during the festival. She's too determined to be a hero. Wait, why did you talk to her? Toga asked, jealousy thick in her voice. Midoriya blinked. Ha! I needed information. She was up against Bakugo, so I tried to help her out. Why? No reason, Toga muttered, clearly still annoyed. Anyway, Midoriya continued, the third option is Nido Monoma. He's got main character syndrome but has always been treated like a side character. If we convince him he can be more as an antagonist he might join us. The last one is Minoru Mineta. He's a pervert. Offer him some rewards, and he might be easy to sway. So who do we go for? Spinner asked. For ease. Mineta. Then Todoroki, Monoma, and finally Uraraka. But if we're thinking long-term usefulness and societal impact. Todoroki first, then Monoma, Uraraka, and Mineta who's almost useless. Then Todoroki it is, Mr. Compress said, earning a scowl from Dabi. Yeah, we aim for Todoroki, Monoma, or Uraraka, Midoriya confirmed, ignoring Dabi's glare. Alright, but what's the plan? Mustard asked, sipping from some soda can. There'll be 6 heroes present, Eraserhead, Glad King, and the Pussycats, Shigaraki explained. We'll hit them during a courage training activity. Dabi will set a fire to trap them. He and Twice will create a clone to attack the base. Mustard releases a gas cloud to knock out students. Magna and Spinner take on the Pussycats. Moonfish abducts the green one for Sensei, then goes after Todoroki. Midoriya frowned at the idea of working with Muscular. Hey, Muscular. What, brat? Muscular sneered. Stick to the plan. Don't go off chasing random kills. I'll do whatever I want, punk. You wanna fight me? Muscular stepped forward, grinning arrogantly. Maybe after the mission. If you screw up, I'll take your other eye and then your life, Midoriya warned, standing up as well. Enough. Shigaraki ordered. Save it for after the mission. The two backed off, glaring at each other. Let's see if I can kill him for disobeying. Less than a week left, enjoy it, Midoriya thought darkly, grinning to himself. Shield and the rest of Class 1A were getting ready to leave the classroom after school. Everyone was excited except Bakugo, who was clearly annoyed by the noise and headed for the door. Come on, Bakugo, it'll be fun. Kirishima said. No, Bakugo growled, fire in his stare, as always. Don't be a party pooper, Kaminari joked, bumping his shoulder. Stop annoying me. Bakugo snapped, shooting him a deadly glare. He was about to walk out when Uraraka said mockingly, come on, Kaken. Bakugo froze. In an instant, he slammed her against the wall. Who told you that name? The room went dead silent. Bakugo, what are you doing? Shield shouted. But Bakugo ignored her, eyes burning. I said who told you that name? Uraraka stammered, a boy at the sports festival. He said it when talking about you. What did he look like? Bakugo demanded. About our age, freckles, fluffy hair, green eyes, and liar. Bakugo shouted, slamming her again before Kirishima and Shield pulled him away. Dude, calm down. It's just a nickname, Kirishima said. Only one person ever called me that, Bakugo muttered, looking away. And, he's dead. The room fell into stunned silence. As Bakugo walked toward the door, Todoroki spoke up. I talked to him too. She's not lying. Bakugo paused, but then left without another word. Bakugo bursted into the principal's office, where Nizu and Eraserhead were monitoring some footage. Oh. Young Bakugo, need something? Nizu asked with a cheerful smile. I want to see the face of a boy who talked to Uraraka and Todoroki during the festival, Bakugo demanded. Ah, I think I know who you mean. Uraraka reported someone sneaking into the participant rooms without clearance. Unfortunately, he avoided all cameras. I couldn't get a visual, but we're investigating, Nizu said. Why are you looking for him? Eraserhead asked. He told Uraraka something only one person ever told me, Bakugo replied. Must be the same person, Eraser said, raising an eyebrow. It can't be, Bakugo said, swallowing hard. He committed suicide. I'm sorry for your loss, Nizu said gently. What was his name? Izuku Midoriya. Just as Midoriya stepped into one of Kurogiri's portal, he sneezed. He then found himself in front of All for One once again. All for One turned. I didn't expect you so soon, Red, or should I say, Izuku. Midoriya flinched at the name. I prefer my villain name. It's been a while since anyone called me by my real one. All right then, Red Tooth it is. What brings you here? You don't visit often. Midoriya smiled. I came to ask a favor, a quirk, actually. For Dabi. All for One raised a brow. It wasn't common for someone to ask for a quirk for another person. Only parents of quirkless children had done that. Midoriya had only known Dabi for weeks. A quirk for Dabi. Why? His flames are powerful, but they're killing him. I don't want him to die from his own power. I want to give him a strong fire-resistant quirk. All for One grinned. That's a noble reason. But what do I gain? Well, first you'd get more value out of Dabi, Midoriya began. But seeing All for One's unimpressed face, he added, I'll tell you how I got my quirk. Now intrigued, All for One smiled. Now that I want to hear. Tell me how you came back from the dead with such a powerful quirk, and I'll give Dabi the one you request. But you'll need to find someone with that quirk for me to steal. Sounds fair to me, Midoriya agreed. Then tell me, Izuku, how did you rise from the grave? Midoriya flinched again at his real name. Then he began to tell the story of the day he died, and what brought him back after the story was told. All for One was intrigued, to say the least. That opens up many paths for me to follow. Now I know there is an afterlife and other universes. After Tamura defeats All Might and conquers the world, I will send you and Dr. Garaki to investigate it. I agree, it looks promising, said Midoriya. Now go and bring me the quirk you want for Dabi, then bring Dabi to me, commanded All for One. I will. In fact, I already know whose quirk Dabi will get, answered Midoriya. Then, with Kurogiri's help, he warped back to the bar where Shigaraki was waiting, playing some new game of his. So, how did it go? You got what you wanted, asked Shigaraki. Yeah, but I'll need Kurogiri's help for something. Mind if I borrow him? TCH, fine, but don't take too long, Shigaraki replied with annoyance, returning to his game. Kurogiri and Midoriya teleported to an apartment. Midoriya looked for the man he had in mind and found him in the living room, watching a movie with his family. He had a son, about 19 years old. Good thing there are no small children, Midoriya thought. He was a ruthless killer, but he didn't mess with kids. There was a difference between being a killer and being someone who enjoys the suffering of others, especially children. Midoriya approached the family from behind, a mischievous grin on his face, revealing a hint of red teeth. Well, well. What a lovely family, the family jumped to their feet. The man stepped forward, raising his arms protectively, and shouted, Who are you? What are you doing here? Get out of my house or I'll call the heroes. Midoriya walked up to him slowly and stopped right in front of him. Are you sure? The heroes can't bring people back from the dead, so calling them would be useless. I mean, you're all going to die. Without waiting for a response, he lunged at the woman and slit her throat with terrifying ease. Mom, the son cried. He grabbed a baseball bat and charged at Midoriya, rage and hate in his eyes, but Midoriya caught the bat mid-swing and snapped it like paper. That's all you've got? Midoriya mocked before slicing the boy's throat. No, the father screamed, collapsing to his knees in agony, a kind of pain few had ever felt. He had just lost everything in seconds. Midoriya stepped toward him, voice calm but laced with evil. Don't worry. After I take what I want, you'll join them. He punched the man in the forehead, knocking him out, then shook his hand slightly in discomfort. Well, looks like punching isn't as easy without my ability, he muttered to himself. Take me back to the bar. Deliver the man to all for one. Kurogyri nodded and obeyed. Back at the bar, Midoriya stepped out of the portal and started looking for Dabi. But before he could call out, someone tackled him to the ground. Toga. She was straddling him with a wide grin. Hi, Red, she chirped. Then she pouted. Midoriya gave a small smile, trying to hide his blush. Well, let me get up and I'll give you some. Toga quickly let him stand and waited eagerly. Midoriya rolled up his sleeve, and she sank her fangs into him. It had become a regular routine. Once or twice a day, Toga would drink from him, then complain about not being able to transform into him. When she finished, she puffed her cheeks again. Why can't I transform? Midoriya chuckled and shook his head. Have you seen Dabi? As if summoned, Dabi walked into the room. Speak of the devil, Midoriya muttered. He approached him. Hey Dabi, we have to go see Shigaraki's sensei. Ha! Dabi turned his head. For what? Midoriya smirked. I've got a gift for you. He called Kurogyri, and the three of them passed through a portal. In his usual throne-like chair, All for One sat observing well, as much as he could, considering he had no eyes. What's this gift Red is talking about? Dabi asked. All for One gave a slight grin. A quirk. More specifically, one that grants fire resistance. Yeah, no thanks, Dabi said immediately, turning around. Come on, Dabi. Why not accept it? Midoriya asked. I don't need it, Dabi replied dryly. Midoriya stepped forward, eyes sharp with purpose. You want to beat Endeavor by yourself, don't you? Dabi stopped. You still will even with this quirk. This isn't to help you beat him. It's to make sure you live long enough to reach that fight, and to survive after it. Show him you're the true masterpiece. Dabi was silent for a moment before sighing. All right, he stepped forward, and All for One wasted no time in beginning the quirk transfer, all the while thinking with a smirk, Izuku Midoriya, what an interesting boy. Chapter 12, The Storm Principal. Nizu was having a great day. Everything was running smoothly. His first-year students were off at the training camp with the pro-hero Wild Pussycats. There were no signs of villain activity, and best of all he hadn't received a single lawsuit all week. Whistling while he worked, Nizu smiled to himself. But his good mood faltered when his office door creaked open. He turned to see a boy step in. He had black hair, wore the standard uniform, and appeared to be a first-year student. His face was mostly hidden by a black scarf wrapped around his mouth. I don't recognize him. That's odd, thought Nizu. Still, he kept his expression neutral. Hello, is there something you need? He asked politely. The boy didn't answer right away. Instead, he sat down across from Nizu and silently set up a chessboard. Well, how about a game of chess, he said, lowering his scarf to reveal a chilling grin and a mouth full of sharp. Nizu's eyes narrowed, and a bead of sweat rolled down his forehead. Red Tooth, don't worry, I'm not here to kill you, said Midoriya, his grin widening. Then, in a whisper laced with malice, he added, not yet, at least. Nizu's smile vanished. Why are you here? He asked, tone suddenly serious. To play chess. Didn't you hear me the first time? Midoriya replied, not losing his smile. Nizu complied, and so they began the game. A few moves in, Midoriya spoke again. Heroes versus villains. An eternal game of chess, don't you think? Nizu moved a knight. Indeed. No matter how hard villains try, there will always be heroes to stop them. Midoriya countered. And yet, the opposite also holds true. More moves were made in silence, then Midoriya leaned back. But this time, it's different. Nizu frowned. What do you mean? Midoriya moved his queen, offering a trade. This time, there are 3 kings. And my goal is to eliminate the other 2. Nizu accepted the trade. I suppose all for one is 1 king. I must be the other. But who's the third? Midoriya shook his head and continued the game. A queen who believes she's a king. Queens often act untouchable, ruling the board with power. But sometimes a queen trade is best. Your queen is all might. Who's ours? Nizu tensed. He's planning to take All Might off the board. How? Distracted by the question, he made a blunder. Midoriya seized the opportunity, moving quickly. We both have pawns advancing, both aiming to become queens. But ours will be stronger. We don't mind sacrificing pieces. However, every hero you lose matters. They played on, each move more tense than the last. Every hero that dies hurts you, Midoriya said. Every civilian lost, every soul broken, it all chips away at your side. And when the time comes, Nizu suddenly realized the trap he'd fallen into several moves ago. Midoriya grinned. Checkmate. Sweating, Nizu stared at the board. He beat me even using distractions, he still won. He's the first to ever do that. He looked up. Heroes will stop you, but even he could hear the doubt in his voice. Midoriya stood. Will they? Before leaving, he pulled up his scarf again and added, don't try to catch me. Students might die. And remember, first comes the queen trade. After the meeting with Nizu, Midoriya wandered through you, looking for someone interesting. He was confident Nizu wouldn't try anything rash. There were too many potential hostages, and any evacuation would be obvious. Eventually, he spotted his target entering a bathroom. Midoriya followed. Hey there. The boy turned, eyes widening. What do you want, Red Tooth? He asked, instantly preparing to flee. Midoriya raised his hands in peace. Don't, but before he could finish, Shinso activated his quirk, brainwashing Midoriya in an instant. DMN, I didn't think Shinso would use his quirk so fast. This just got more interesting, Midoriya thought, frozen. Shinso relaxed. Maybe if I capture a famous villain, they'll finally let me into the hero course. Midoriya strained against the mental chains. Think. What can I use? Claws and teeth won't help. Sensing. Useless. Presence hiding. Worthless if he already sees me. Maybe strength. He activated his strength ability. His arm turned red but didn't move. Come on, I won't lose to a student in a bathroom. With sheer willpower and desperation, he focused harder until something clicked. Whatever power he tapped into broke the control. Shinso, deep in thought, was startled by Midoriya's voice. Hello. Earth to Shinso. Shinso jumped back. How did you break free? Midoriya smirked, then paused. You know what? Never mind. That was impressive. You have a great quirk and you use it well. But why aren't you in the hero course? Shinso looked down, silent. Because they're idiots, Midoriya continued, as if it were obvious. They don't want real heroes. They want flashy ones. Look at Class 1A strength, fire, flying blades. He stepped closer. They said your quirk was villainous, didn't they? Shinso nodded. Midoriya placed a hand on his shoulder. I know how that feels. I wanted to be a hero too. But my idol crushed that dream. So I listened to them and became a villain. He met Shinso's eyes. If they don't want our help, let's watch them burn. With that, he turned to leave. At the door, he looked back. Don't answer now. Think about it. Do you want to try to be a hero or do you want to be someone? Annoyed, that's how Shigaraki felt as he scratched his neck, eyes fixed on the forest in front of him. Why does he take this long? He muttered. Muscular came up behind him with a snarl. And when are we gonna attack, huh? We should start without that brat. Shigaraki groaned. Just a few more minutes, right on cue, a portal opened behind them. Kurogiri's mist swirled as Midoriya stepped out. Sorry for the delay, he said, brushing some dirt off his coat. Some vigilantes were clashing with thugs. Had to stay and watch. Just don't make it a habit, Shigaraki replied without turning. We're starting the plan now. Everyone moved. Midoriya followed Muscular, as instructed. Once they were far enough from the others, Muscular growled, "Stop following me, brat, or I'll kill you." Midoriya rolled his eyes. Trust me, if it weren't Shigaraki's orders, I wouldn't be here. And you'd already be dead by now, he thought darkly. They began climbing a mountain. At a fork, the path split one way up, one way down. Muscular chose to descend. Midoriya went higher. When he reached a ridge, Midoriya sat down, staring out over the forest below. Blue flames flickered in the distance. Maybe I should let the others take the spotlight, he thought under the pale light of the full moon. But he got bored in less than 5 minutes. Let's check on the brainless muscle, he muttered, peeking down. There he was, Muscular, approaching a little kid with a red hat. Hey, kid. Cool hat. Want a trade? Muscular asked, voice dripping with malice. That son of a, Midoriya thought. He jumped down, landing between them. Focus on the mission, Muscular. Leave the kid alone. Muscular growled. F off, brat. I'm gonna kill this kid, then finish the mission. Take one more step toward him, and you'll regret it, Midoriya warned, removing his scarf and baring his claws. Muscular grinned. Let's see about that. He launched forward, muscles bulging unnaturally. Midoriya dodged by springing off the wall and landing on Muscular's back, slashing him and retreating before a counter could land. Muscular only laughed. Those little cuts won't work on me. Midoriya scowled. I can't slash him, and piercing could kill me. My only chance is, hitting his face. He ducked under a right hook, leapt over a left swing. Stop running, coward. Muscular roared. Midoriya tried punching, but nothing landed clean. Muscular pushed forward. Midoriya stumbled and fell onto his back. Before he could recover, Muscular loomed above, fist massive and descending. Midoriya barely had time to raise his own hand in defense. Is this how I die? A splash of water hit Muscular. Ha, he grunted, glancing at the kid, who was trembling, his hand dripping. I'll let him go, the boy stammered, his eyes big and his voice small. Just a second, kid. Don't be so impatient, Muscular muttered, still pressing down on Midoriya. No, this isn't how I die. I'm going to kill this bstrd, and everyone who hurt me. Midoriya gritted his teeth. His strength quirk borrowed from another universe was a lesser version of armament hockey. The ability to coat oneself in willpower. But now, something awakened. Fueled by rage and resolve, the black energy around his arm deepened, turning pitch black, hardening with an aura that broke through defenses. Muscular's eyes widened as Midoriya began pushing back. What the hell? When did he get this strong? Die. Midoriya roared, slamming his fist into Muscular's face, launching him into the mountain wall and leaving a crater. Muscular fell unconscious. Midoriya stood, panting. Now I get why Bakugo says that all the time, he scoffed. He turned to the kid, who flinched. Why did you help me? Midoriya asked. He killed my parents. I didn't want to help you, I just wanted him gone, the kid lied, not very convincingly. Midoriya gave him a tired smile. TCH, just know, I'm not a hero. And don't trust them. I did once, didn't end well. He placed a hand gently on the kid's head. Be careful, kid. The world's not black and white. Without waiting for a reply, he vanished into the forest. Chapter 13, Consequences. The forest was quiet again, but the silence didn't bring peace. Midoriya walked through the trees with slow, heavy steps. His fight with Muscular had left his body sore and his clothes torn, but his mind stayed sharp-focused. He had a job to finish. After a few minutes, he found who he was looking for. Mustard was lying on the forest floor, unconscious. Two students stood nearby, exhausted but alert, watching over the villain like guards who just barely won the battle. Midoriya approached calmly, hands relaxed at his sides. "Hey there," he said. "Relax. I'm not in the mood for a fight. Just came to pick up my partner." The students tensed immediately, raising their fists in weak defiance. "Step back," the boy barked. "Or we'll take you down too." Midoriya smiled not kindly. His teeth showed sharp against the faint light, and that alone made them flinch. "You're tired," he said. "Wannabe heroes who got lucky." He took a step closer, eyes never leaving them. "And me? I'm a trained killer." That was a lie, or at least half of one. His legs still burned, and his arms felt like dead weight after that last hit from Muscular. But he wouldn't let it show. He reached Mustard and threw him over his shoulder with a grunt. "Don't worry," he said with a smirk, turning away. "I won't try to kill you, yet." And just like that, he walked into the trees, heading for the rendezvous point. The silence returned, but now it carried something new. Fear. Midoriya was arriving at the meeting point. Dabi, Twice, Magna, and Spinner were already there. "Where are Mr. Compress and Toga?" Midoriya asked. "We don't know," answered Magna. "If they take too long, we'll have to leave them behind," added Dabi, arms crossed. "We should wait for them." "We should go now," said Twice. "Please arrive," Midoriya thought, eyes fixed on the forest. A minute later, Mr. Compress emerged, several students hot on his heels. "We have to go," shouted Mr. Compress. "But Toga," Midoriya whispered. Just then, Toga burst from the trees with a wide smile on her face. "Red. Guess what, I made a new friend. Her name is Tsu," she said, rushing over to him. Midoriya smiled back. "Tell me more." At the base, a swirling purple portal opened. As Midoriya dashed toward it, the rest engaged the students. Thanks to Mr. Compress's tricks and Dabi's fire, they managed to escape through the portal. Back at the base, Shigaraki greeted them. "So, you got the kid?" he asked Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress pointed to Dabi, who held a marble in his hand. Shigaraki grinned. "Great. Let's restrain him once he's out of the marble." He turned to Toga. "And you? Did you get the thing we needed?" Toga proudly held up 2 vials. "From 2 students," she said. "This one's from my friend Tsu," she said, shaking the right vial, "and this one's from my friend Ochako," she added, shaking the left. Shigaraki scratched his neck. "We needed at least 3, Midoriya dropped Mustard onto the couch and slung an arm over Shigaraki's shoulders. "Don't worry. Today, we've won," he said with a grin. Shigaraki smirked. "You're right. Once we restrain the boy, we'll have some fun while we wait for him to wake up." He paused. "But, what happened to Muscular? You were with him." "Let's just say he disobeyed an order," Midoriya began, flashing an evil smile. "And I had to put him in his place." "I knew you'd teach him a lesson," Toga cooed, leaning against him, making him blush. "Stop flirting and start preparing the chair," Shigaraki ordered. After playing for a while, Todoroki woke up, with the league watching him in a semicircle. The boy looked at each of them and then said coldly, "What do you want, villains?" Midoriya chuckled and joked, who would have thought the son of Endeavor would be this cold? Making Toga giggle. "Don't joke now, Red," commanded Shigaraki. He then turned to Todoroki and said, "I'll go straight to the point. What do you think about becoming a villain?" Todoroki raised an eyebrow. Do you really think I'm going to become a villain? Midoriya stepped forward. Let's rephrase the question. He stood in front of Todoroki. Do we really think that a boy abused by his father, raised to be a weapon by the number 2 hero, would turn his back on those who hurt him? Todoroki avoided his gaze. Yes, we do think that, Midoriya continued. We've all suffered in different ways, and that made us villains. Villains are made, not born. Is he, right, thought Todoroki. But then, memories came, his mother encouraging him to be a hero. All Might saving people on TV, how he wanted to be like him. How he still wants to be like him. Todoroki looked at Midoriya with determination. No. I won't become a villain. I'm going to become a hero. They stared at each other for a few seconds before Midoriya broke eye contact and walked back to Shigaraki. Well, I tried. Before anyone else could speak, a knock came at the door. Kamino's Pizza Delivery. A second later, a wall exploded, and branches surged in, capturing everyone. An old man knocked out Dabi, while Edgeshot took down Kurogiri. Then, the number 1 hero appeared. As All Might entered, both Shigaraki's and Midoriya's blood boiled. You shall not fear, because shut up. Please, interrupted Midoriya. That stupid phrase again. Don't you have anything else? Muscles but no brain. Everyone went silent, stunned. Then, gray mud began to leak from the League members and Todoroki. All Might tried to grab him but failed. When the mud dispersed, they were in front of All for One, in a destroyed building. Well. I didn't expect that, said Midoriya, analyzing the scene with his observation ability. He noticed fallen heroes, 5 students behind a broken wall, and All Might approaching them. Don't worry, Tamura, said All for One. You will try again in the near future until you succeed. I could come up with better motivational lines, thought Midoriya. Without wasting time, Todoroki launched an ice attack at Midoriya, who jumped back. Catch him, shouted Shigaraki. Toga, Magna, and Spinner rushed in, but the ice was too overwhelming, they couldn't reach him. With Dabi knocked out and the rest of our team being close range, we can't touch him, thought Midoriya, dodging again. Then, All Might arrived. He stared at All for One, ready to fight. We have to get out of here, thought Midoriya. Suddenly, an explosion hit the broken wall, and the 5 students flew across the battlefield. A dark-haired girl shouted, "Let's go, Todoroki." He used his eyes to launch himself toward his classmates. Spinner, Mr. Compress, and Magna moved to intercept, but don't go, shouted Midoriya. It's a waste of time. We have to go. Red Tooth is right. You should leave, said All for One, using one of his quirks to force a knocked-out Kurogiri to create a portal. He also forced Magna to launch the League into it. On the other side, the League was dizzy from the launch and the adrenaline. Shigaraki was shaking, scratching his neck anxiously. Red, do you think he will win? Midoriya looked at him seriously. No. Even if he could defeat All Might, other heroes would arrive to finish him off. Shigaraki turned a wall to dust in frustration, tears welling in his eyes. Midoriya looked at the rest. We lost All for One, and our contact with Dr. Garaki, but at least the others escaped. This was a loss for us, but we always come back. Phase 2 begins. Chapter 14, Trial of the Fools, Determination. It had been 2 weeks since All for One was locked away in Tartarus. In the meantime, Shigaraki had sent twice, Dabi, and Midoriya to scout for new recruits, while Kurogiri searched for the doctor. Ugh, do I really have to do this? Midoriya muttered to himself, walking through the streets of Mizudafu. He avoided heroes and cameras, he didn't need that kind of attention right now. Eventually, he ended up in a quiet alley, eating a small meal when he overheard 2 voices nearby. Hey, remember that underground fight club my brother told us about? Asked a young man, probably in his 20s. Yeah, I remember. You wanna go? Or why bring it up? Replied the second voice. No reason, the first one mocked. Of course I wanna go. My brother just sent me the location. Midoriya smirked. Maybe I'll get a good fight in and I can always tell Shigaraki I was looking for capable recruits, he thought. With that, he silently began tailing them, masking his presence with his ability. He arrived at the club with a noticeable excitement on his face. After his intense battle with Muscular, he'd been itching for stronger opponents, fighters who could push him to his limits, who would make him go plus ultra. Ironic, coming from an enemy of UA. The fighting ring was a crude metal cage, around 39 by 39 feet. Two fighters were already inside. One resembled a short skeleton wearing a blue jacket, while the other was a man in his 30s, with a metal plate covering his right eye and long, greenish and grayish hair. The fight was intense. The man wielded a sword and moved with the speed of an agility quirk, but the skeleton controlled bones erupting from the ground. Despite the man's speed, the skeleton had the upper hand, using his bone manipulation for both offense and defense. The two clashed swords, the man's steel versus the skeleton's bone blade, while the crowd roared in excitement. But before the swordsman could retreat, spikes shot from the ground and pierced his leg. It was over in seconds. A sharp bone hovered inches from the swordsman's face before the announcer declared through the mic, and that's the match. Another victory for Nans. The crowd went wild. Then the announcer continued, who dares to challenge Nans next? Beat a leaderboard fighter and win 80,000 yen. Anyone brave enough? The murmurs of the crowd betrayed their fear. Losing could mean serious injuries, or worse. But Midoriya didn't hesitate. His eyes locked onto the leaderboard. Nans was ranked third. How hard could it be? He stepped forward and shouted, I want to fight him. The room fell into stunned silence before erupting into laughter. Go back to preschool, kid. Don't ruin the show. He'll kill you in seconds. Nans looked at him with an amused smirk. I don't want to fight you, kid. It wouldn't even be a fight. Midoriya returned the smirk. Yeah. I figured you'd be too afraid. You look like a brittle sack of bones. Guess I expected too much. The crowd gasped. Nan's expression darkened. Do you want to have a bad time? He asked, voice cold. Let him in. The crowd parted to let Midoriya enter the cage. Once inside, the gate slammed shut. Silence. Then Nan spoke, calm and eerie. It's a appealing day outside, birds are singing, flowers are blooming. On days like these, his gaze turned deadly. Kids like you should burn in hell. Without warning, sharp bones erupted toward Midoriya. He leapt to dodge, drawing his crimson claws and clinging to the cage's wall. More spikes shot out of the metal, forcing him to drop back near where he began. I've always wondered why people don't use their strongest attacks right away, Nan said casually. His attacks are fast, and they linger, they block off my movement, Midoriya analyzed. But, my starting position is clear. That means the bones disappear eventually. The question is, when? What? Already tired? Nans mocked, launching another barrage. Midoriya dodged right and charged, claws ready. Nans simply raised a bone wall. Midoriya tried slicing through, but it held firm. He barely dodged another wave of spikes and countered with an energy blast. Nans blocked it effortlessly. That's it. Those claws, your red tooth, right? I expected more from a serial killer. Bones rained from above. Midoriya dodged some, but others shot out from the walls. This is harder than I expected, just like I wanted. He grinned. For a moment, both fighters paused. You seem awfully happy for someone losing, Nans remarked. Nah. I just figured out how to beat you. Midoriya fired another energy blast. Again, Nans blocked. Midoriya sprang up, trying to attack from above, but was forced down again by more bones. Still, he didn't stop. He charged the wall directly in front of Nans. What is he thinking? Nans prepared another strike from the ceiling. Just as Midoriya's claws reached the barrier, the bones vanished. In that split second, his claws slashed across Nan's torso. The crowd erupted. Midoriya stood tall, claws inches away from Nan's eyes. 10 seconds. That's how long your bones stay before they vanish. He calculated the timing and struck accordingly. He's smarter than he looks, thought Nans, a smile creeping onto his face. Well, well. You win. The announcer grabbed Midoriya's wrist and lifted it. We have a winner. The infamous killer, Red Tooth. Midoriya exited the cage and was handed a briefcase full of yen. Just as he was about to leave, a mysterious figure approached him. The man wore a pure white cloak and a white, expressionless mask in place of a face. His presence was eerily calm, elegant, even. Greetings, the man said with a polite bow. Tell me, do you wish to earn even more money? Midoriya raised an eyebrow and smirked. And how exactly would I do that? The masked man straightened. Simple. You fight me. Should you triumph, I will double your winnings. However, he leaned in slightly. If I win, the entirety of your prize becomes mine. Do you accept the challenge? Midoriya's grin widened behind his mask. Tomorrow. Same time. The man bowed again. I shall be waiting. Midoriya turned and walked out of the club. This is going to be very interesting. Back at the League's temporary hideout, an old warehouse, Midoriya entered as Shigaraki and Toga approached. Any new recruits? Shigaraki asked, noticing his unusually upbeat mood. Well, no recruits yet. But I fought in a club and made some money, Midoriya replied. Shigaraki groaned. At least you got something, he muttered, turning to talk to Spinner. Toga stepped closer, her smile playful and eyes gleaming. So how much did you drink, Red? She asked, holding up her own claws with a teasing grin. Midoriya blushed slightly. None this time, killing's not allowed in the club. Toga pouted. Ugh, where's the fun in that? Midoriya chuckled. Yeah, I agree. Are you going back tomorrow? She asked, leaning even closer. Yeah. Actually, I bet all my winnings on my next fight. Toga lit up. Oh, then I have to come watch you. Midoriya looked away, his blush deepening. Yeah, sure. You could. They chatted a while longer before regrouping with the rest of the League tomorrow. Another fight awaited Midoriya. Chapter 15, Trial of the Fools. Void. Midoriya, Toga, and Dabi were heading to the fighting club. Dabi had tagged along to scout for new recruits, unlike the other two, who came solely for Midoriya's match. When they arrived, the same mysterious man was waiting near the entrance. As soon as he saw Midoriya, he approached with calm steps and said, Greetings. Shall we begin our duel? Midoriya nodded. Yeah. With that, he started walking toward the ring, while the man calmly made his way to the opposite side. Before he stepped in, Toga grinned and shouted, Kick his butt. Midoriya smiled at her and kept walking. They entered the ring at the same time. The announcer's voice echoed through the crowd, Tonight, we have an exciting battle. On one side, we have Red Tooth the assassin, and now ranked number 3 in this arena against Sevel. The crowd erupted into a roar of anticipation. So that's Sevel, Midoriya thought, recalling the leaderboard. He was number 2. Fight, the announcer yelled. As in his previous fight, Midoriya stood still, analyzing his opponent. Sevel slowly reached into his cloak and drew a large, white sword. As the weapon came into view, so did the rest of him, a pitch-black body, darker than night, as if one could fall forever into its endless void. Sevel gave a respectful bow. Midoriya returned it without hesitation. Then Sevel lunged. His sword came down with brutal speed. Midoriya blocked with his claws, but didn't have time to counter. Sevel was already shifting, striking from different angles with inhuman precision. When Midoriya tried to retaliate, Sevel leapt back out of range, then suddenly stabbed his sword into the ground. What's he? Midoriya's thought was cut off as black tentacles burst from the floor. He had to jump to the wall to dodge them. Not again, he thought, a bead of sweat running down his temple. The tendrils retreated just as Sevel pulled his sword free and launched himself at Midoriya, who was still midair. Forced to descend, Midoriya fired an energy blast only for Sevel to swat it away with his blade like it was a fly. This is way harder than last time. Nan's had a strong quirk, sure, but Sevel's different. His strength, agility, technique, it's all thanks to that mutant quirk of his. Plus, he has powers I don't even understand yet. They clashed again, exchanging slashes, blocks, and dodges in a deadly rhythm. Sevel maintained the upper hand, but eventually, Midoriya spotted what looked like an opening. Without a second thought, he lunged, claws ready, heart pounding, face lit with the fire of ambition. But it was a trap. As Midoriya got close, Sevel's free hand slammed him into the ground, cracking the floor beneath and snapping several bones in the process. Midoriya could barely move. Sevel's sword hovered inches from his neck. "You are a fierce warrior," Sevel said, his voice calm and smooth, "but you shall not triumph over my blade." Then he turned and walked toward the exit, leaving Midoriya in the wreckage of his defeat. "Damn it, he tricked me. I'm weak. I'm still weak," the thought stung. Tears almost in his eyes, but he didn't let them appear. "No. I'll beat him. I have to train." He slowly stood up, wincing in pain, and called out, "1 week." Sevel stopped at the metal door and glanced back. "Let's fight again in 1 week, Midoriya said. "If I win, I take it all. If you win, I'll give you another 80,000 yen. Sevel gave a faint nod. "Very well. I shall await our rematch." Then he left. Midoriya limped over to Toga and Dabi. Toga looked worried. "You okay, Red?" she asked. "Yeah, just a few broken bones. I'll be fine tomorrow," he said right before wincing again. "You're confident," Dabi muttered with a raised brow. "You really think you can beat him in just a week?" "I won't know unless I try," Midoriya replied. The three of them returned to the base. Their steps were slower than usual. Their expressions darker. The energy was so dead it could have applied for a job at a funeral home. Shigaraki looked up from the couch, his hand twitching near his neck. He frowned. What happened? Midoriya scratched the back of his head, trying and failing to sound casual. Let's just say. I no longer have the money I got yesterday." Shigaraki blinked. "What?" he said, already scratching his neck faster. "How did you lose it?" "Well, I got this amazing offer," he bet it, Dabi interrupted, arms crossed. His tone was dry as a desert on a diet. "And he lost the fight. So he lost the money." "Yeah." Toga chirped. "He didn't even stand a chance." "Thanks for the moral support, guys," Midoriya muttered, crossing his arms. "Don't worry," Toga said brightly, bouncing a bit on her heels. "You'll win next time. You just have to train. "Yeah, about that." Midoriya's eyes narrowed slightly. "I think we should all start training. Back in the forest we had trouble with those heroes and the students. I'm not the only one who needs to improve. Mustard, Spinner, Toga, and I should train the most." "Wait me," said Spinner, pointing at himself, slightly offended. "You use a bunch of swords tied together like it's a cosplay prop." "No offense." Midoriya tilted his head toward him. "Mustard nearly got captured, Toga only got it from 2 students, and I got smacked around in the ring like a piñata. So yeah. That's why." Spinner looked at his weapon. Then at Midoriya. Then back at the weapon. But I like this sword, he mumbled under his breath. Okay, okay. Keep your glorified kitchen utensils. Midoriya rolled his eyes. But Mustard. No excuses. Without waiting for a reply, he marched over to Mustard and grabbed him by the back of his hoodie, dragging him like a disappointed older brother. Mustard made a noise of protest but didn't resist. Toga skipped after them like a schoolgirl on her way to a murder-themed picnic. Dabi just sighed and lit a cigarette using his quirk. Idiots, he said fondly. The trio arrived at another abandoned warehouse, this one half collapsed, rusted beams sticking out like broken bones. The air inside was thick with dust and a faint scent of oil and metal. So how am I going to train? Mustard asked, crossing his arms. His voice carried more nervousness than he wanted to admit. Easy, Midoriya said with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. You're going to learn to use a knife. A knife. Mustard blinked. And you're training with her, he added, pointing at Toga, who stood behind him with an expression that could only be described as dangerously enthusiastic. Mustard turned to her slowly. She smiled wide, her head tilting slightly. Oh no, he muttered. They got to work. Toga began showing him the basic stance, grip, quick jabs. Despite her chaotic energy, her teaching was surprisingly methodical. Sharp, precise. Like she'd done this 1,000 times. Probably had. Midoriya sat nearby on a stack of crates, his body present, but his mind elsewhere lost in the swirling storm that was Seville. He's got super strength, speed, void attacks, and he's a MSTR swordsman. My energy slash didn't even scratch him. My claws. Worthless against that blade. The strength technique would leave me too open, he clenched his fists. So, how do I beat him? He stared at a broken pipe dripping water, as if it might answer. Maybe if I attack from behind. But how do I even get there? His sword strikes, I can block. The void blasts, I can dodge. I just need to wait for the right moment. A real opening this time. A smirk crawled onto his face. Yeah, he only won because of that little trick. But that won't work twice. With new confidence igniting in his chest, Midoriya stood up and walked over to Mustard and Toga. All right. That's enough stabbing air. Let's do this for real. You're up against Toga. Don't die. Mustard blinked. Wait, what? Toga lunged at him with a giggle. The day had come. The sun hung high over the arena, a repurposed industrial dome just outside the city, where rusted metal and old machinery gave the place a gladiatorial vibe. The ring was cracked concrete, surrounded by walls that echoed every breath. Midoriya stood on one side, claws loose at his sides, eyes locked on the opponent in front of him. Seville. He stood calmly, his oversized black blade resting casually on his shoulder. His armor was dented, his cloak ragged, but his presence hadn't diminished in the slightest. In fact, he looked more focused than before. Shall we begin? Seville asked, his voice as calm as a storm about to start. Midoriya nodded once. No words. No taunts. Just purpose. The bell rang, some rusted metal pole falling to the floor. And the fight began. Chapter 16, Trial of the Fools. Payback. Bakugo was walking to the principal, who had summoned him to his office. "TCH, what does that DMN rat want now?" he mumbled under his breath. Upon arriving, Bakugo didn't bother to knock and simply barged in. "What do you want?" he snapped, plopping down in the chair across from Nizu. Nizu offered a polite smile, more formality than genuine warmth. "Young Bakugo, I have some very important news. And I believe you should be the first to hear it." Nizu sat upright and adopted a more serious expression. "Tell me, do you know who Red Tooth is?" Bakugo scoffed. "Yeah, I've seen him on the news. Some knockoff villain with a stupid name." If that's all, I'm leaving. He stood up, but froze as Nizu dropped the bomb. I'm sorry to say this, but we believe Red Tooth is your old classmate, Midoriya Izuku. Bakugo stood still, stunned. What? He slammed his hand on Nizu's desk. Liar. He's dead. And then he'd never become a villain. So shut your mouth, you. I saw his face, Nizu cut in sharply. Everything matches. Red Tooth first appeared 6 months after Midoriya's death, coinciding exactly with the disappearance of his body. He calmly sipped his tea. His height, his voice, and more than that, he used a nickname only he ever called you. Nizu's eyes met Bakugo's. Izuku Midoriya experienced a posthumous quirk awakening, and he is Red Tooth. Bakugo dropped back into the chair, as if the weight of the truth crushed him. He's alive, but he's a villain. It's my fault. It's always been my fault. Shigaraki was in a surprisingly good mood. He had just ranked up in League of Legends with Spinner. As they talked, Midoriya, Toga, and Dabi entered, just returning from a fight in the underground ring. Hey Red. How'd the fight go? Shigaraki grinned. Midoriya didn't even glance at him. He walked straight past, heading into a dark corner behind some crates. Shigaraki's grin faded. What happened? He asked Dabi. He lost, Dabi said bluntly. He lasted longer this time, but didn't land a single hit. It turned into a battle of endurance, and he ran out of it first. Dabi paused. Now we owe 80,000 yen for next week. Shigaraki frowned, eyes flicking toward the boxes where Midoriya sat alone. Let him be for today. Tomorrow, tell him to come up with a plan to get the money. Before Dabi could respond, Midoriya stood up and silently walked out of the warehouse. Everyone watched him go. Moments later, Toga slipped out after him, trailing quietly in the shadows. Midoriya wandered the dim streets of Mizudafu, with Toga tailing him. She watched from afar as he stopped to buy a single red rose. A rose. Toga thought with a pang of jealousy. Does he have a girlfriend? Who's it for? Her heart pounded, and she followed him until he reached a graveyard. After searching for a few minutes, Midoriya stopped at one specific grave. He knelt and placed the rose gently on the headstone. Toga's heart calmed. Oh, it was for that, she thought, a bit embarrassed by her earlier assumption. But then she looked at Midoriya again and her heart twisted. It was a strange pain. Not physical. Not logical. Just ache. Why does it hurt seeing him like that? He's not even crying, he's just standing there. But maybe I should try to help him. She slowly approached and stood beside him in silence. The headstone read, Inko Midoriya, beloved friend, daughter, and mother. After a long silence, Toga softly asked, who was she? Midoriya didn't answer at first. But then, barely audible, he said, my mom. How did she pass away? She asked gently. His fist clenched, not in sadness but rage. Pure, simmering rage. He remembered what Sir Death had shown him. All Might, he hissed. Because of All Might, she's dead. Then his voice broke, and his anger faded into something hollow. But I'm too weak. How can I avenge her if I can't even beat a nobody in a ring? I'm still useless. I'm still Deku. His voice trembled. Tears welled up, and he tried to blink them away. He failed. Deku. Toga echoed. What does that mean? It comes from Dekunobo puppet. Idiot. Useless. Toga frowned, then suddenly smiled with childlike mischief. I think it comes from Dekairu. It means, you can do it. She latched onto his arm. So yeah, you are a Deku. Because I know you can do it. Midoriya chuckled softly and patted her head. Thanks, Toga. She shook her head defiantly. Nah. From now on, call me Himiko. Midoriya blinked. Alright. Himiko, you should call me Izuku then, her grin widened. You have a cute name, Izuku. Midoriya turned beet red. When they got back at the warehouse, Midoriya approached Mr. Compress, ignoring the others' glances. Hey. Do you know how I can get 80,000 yen in less than a week? Compress stroked his chin. Well, robbing a bank could get you even more. But that takes time and planning. Midoriya briefly thought of Binge, Crocodile, and Don Domingo. There is a place, Compress added. You can get illegal jobs there, fast cash, dangerous work. 2 days, maybe less. Midoriya's eyes gleamed with determination. Then lead the way. Toga, Midoriya, and Mr. Compress arrived at what looked like an abandoned building. Mr. Compress knocked on the door and called out with a cheerful tone, Hey, John. Remember me. It's Suji, Mr. Compress. The door creaked open to reveal a man barely 3 feet tall, covered in thick black fur with burly arms and legs. He looked like a walking bear with a mutation quirk. Hi, John. How are you? Compress greeted him with a grin. The name's Josh, the bear man growled. And I'm fine now. Wasn't so fine when you left me behind at that bank for the cops to grab me. A nervous drop of sweat ran down Mr. Compress's forehead as the memory hit him. Well, in my defense, he said, forcing a smile, you and your brother were planning to kill me afterward. Josh stepped toward him, muscles tensed and eyes dark. Midoriya immediately raised his clawed hands and moved between them. Back off, teddy bear. Let's not turn this into, alright. Josh snorted through his nose but backed away, stepping aside just enough to let them in. One wrong move, he warned, and you're done for. Got it. Yeah, Midoriya muttered, not even sparing him a glance. Mr. Compress led them through the building, down a series of dim hallways and creaky stairs to the basement. Eyes followed them along the way, some cautious, some impressed. Everyone recognized them, the League of Villains. They finally reached a large task board cluttered with papers. After scanning through several, only one stood out with a reward that matched what they needed: 100,000 yen. Well then, Midoriya said, holding the paper up, this must be the one. It says we have to abduct someone. Doesn't sound too hard. We just need their coordinates, and with Kurogiri's help, it'll be a piece of cake, said Mr. Compress. Yeah, sounds easy. Unfortunately, we can't count on Kurogiri for this one, Midoriya added, then shrugged. Still, how hard could it be? He had no idea just how wrong he was.